I stood at the Miami gate as my brother-in-law ripped my boarding pass in two, tearing away my place in this family. My mother refused to look at me, only adjusting her silk scarf like I was a smudge on glass. Then a stranger in a suit worth more than my annual salary leaned close and whispered a lie. Smile. You are my fiancé. I should have run, but leaving meant losing everything. My name is Chloe Green. For 33 years, I have existed in the margins of other people's spotlights. In my professional life, at a small, quiet studio called Lumen Vault Atelier. I am a ghost who resurrects the dead. I take vintage alligator skin bags that have been crushed by time and neglect, or Swiss watches that have stopped ticking for decades, and I breathe value back into them. I understand structure. I understand how to mend a fracture so seamlessly that the naked eye would never know the object was ever broken. But standing under the harsh, sterile fluorescent lights of Miami International Airport, paralyzed by the sudden violence of a piece of paper tearing, I realized that some things are too shattered to be restored. My brother-in-law, Logan Kincaid, stood before me with the remnants of my boarding pass in his hands. The sound of the cardstock ripping had been sharp, a decisive snap that cut through the low hum of the terminal chatter. It was not just a ticket. That piece of paper represented 7 months of overtime, skipped lunches, and weekends spent inhaling chemical solvents in the studio to save every extra dollar. It was my economy seat to Milan. It was my ticket to my mother's 60th birthday celebration. You are not flying with us, Logan said. His voice was calm, terrifyingly reasonable, the sort of tone a parent uses with a slow child. He dropped the two halves of the boarding pass onto the dirty gray carpet. They fluttered down like dead leaves. I stared at the paper on the floor, then up at him. Logan, what are you doing? The flight is boarding in 20 minutes. It is for the best, Chloe, he said, smoothing the lapels of his blazer. He looked like every other aspirational businessman in the priority lane, polished, vaguely handsome, and entirely hollow. The seating arrangement was a mess. We could not have you back in economy while we were up front. It looks bad for the family image, bad for business. I looked past him to my mother, Darlene Cole. She was standing 5 feet away, obsessively adjusting her oversized sunglasses and the knot of her silk scarf. She was a beautiful woman who had spent 40 years curating a life that looked expensive from a distance. She knew exactly what was happening. She heard the rip. She heard his voice. Yet she studied her reflection in the terminal window as if I were nothing more than a smudge on the glass that she could wish away. Mom, I asked. The word felt heavy in my throat. She did not turn. She flicked a piece of lint off her shoulder. To her right, my sister Sienna was holding her phone up. Finding her light, the ring light clipped to her device cast a halo in her eyes as she spoke to her invisible audience. Milan vibes only. We are literally about to board. Best birthday trip ever. She angled the camera so it captured the VIP lounge sign and cut me out of the frame entirely. I was the outtake. I was the blooper reel that never made it to air. I bought that ticket, I said, my voice trembling. I hated that I was trembling. I spent my days using tweezers to set microscopic gears. I had hands of steel. Why was I shaking now? Logan, I paid for that ticket with my own money. About that, Logan said, checking his watch. It was a Rolex Daytona, or at least a very good replica of one. I could usually tell from across a room, but my vision was blurring with panic. I had to move some liquidity around this morning to secure the upgrades for Darlene and Sienna. You know how volatile the exchange rates are right now. A cold pit opened in my stomach. I grabbed my phone and opened my banking app. Face ID swirled, agonizingly slow. Before the screen unlocked, 0. Actually, it was not 0. It was negative. The savings account I had been building for 2 years was gone. The checking account was overdrawn. Logan, I whispered, where is my money? It is an investment, Chloe, he said, stepping closer, his voice dropping so the people in line behind us would not hear. He put a hand on my shoulder, squeezing hard enough to bruise. I transferred the liquidity to cover the first-class upgrades and the villa deposit. You do not understand high-level finance. Money has to move to grow. I will pay you back with interest after the deal in Milan closes next week. You are basically an investor now. You stole from me, I said. It was not a question. You logged into the family trust portal and drained my personal sub-account. That is grand larceny. It is family financial planning, he corrected, his eyes hardening. The mask of the benevolent brother-in-law slipped for a fraction of a second, revealing the shark beneath. Don't make a scene. Chloe, you know how much this trip means to your mother. Do you want to ruin her 60th birthday because you are being stingy? Stingy, I choked out. I have no money. You left me with nothing. How am I supposed to get home? How am I supposed to eat? You are resourceful. You fix old junk for a living. Sienna chimed in, not looking up from her screen as she typed a caption. Figure it out. Just don't come crying to us and ruin the vibe. My mother finally turned. She looked at me, her eyes sweeping over my practical travel clothes, a beige trench coat, comfortable trousers, sneakers. She looked at me with a profound, exhausting disappointment. Chloe, please. People are staring. Logan says he will handle it when we get back. Just go home. You never fit in with these trips anyway. Go home. I laughed. A sharp, hysterical sound. I can't go home. I can't even pay for an Uber. Mom, he took everything. Logan sighed, an exaggerated exhale of patience. Fine. If you are going to be hysterical, I need to make sure you don't do something stupid while we are in the air. He reached out. Before I could react, his hand dipped into the open front pocket of my tote bag. He pulled out my passport. Hey, I lunged for it, but he held it high, stepping back. I will hold on to this, he said, tucking my passport into the inside pocket of his jacket, right next to his heart. For safekeeping, I don't trust you not to try and follow us on a credit card or something reckless. You need to cool off. I will give it back when we return in 10 days. That is illegal, I stammered. The ground seemed to be tilting under my feet. Logan, give me my passport. Boarding for Flight 729 to Milan is now commencing for first class and priority passengers. The intercom announced. The sterile female voice sounded like a judgment from God. That is us, Sienna squealed, grabbing her carry-on. Bye, sweetie, Mom said vaguely, blowing a kiss into the air somewhere to the left of my head. Try to get some rest. They turned their backs, just like that. The choreography was brutal in its efficiency. Logan flashed his digital boarding pass at the scanner. Beep. Sienna followed. Beep. Mom followed. Beep. I stood there. I was 33 years old, and I was stranded at Gate D12 with no money, no identification, no ticket, and no family. The humiliation was a physical thing, a heat that started in my chest and crawled up my neck. People were watching. A woman with a toddler stared at me with pity. A businessman shifted his gaze away, embarrassed to witness my dismantling. I took a step forward, intending to scream, to run past the gate agent, to grab Logan by his expensive lapels and demand my life back. But my legs refused to work. The shock hit me all at once. The adrenaline drained away, leaving only a terrifying emptiness. I swayed. The airport lights smeared into long white streaks. I was going to pass out. I was going to hit the dirty gray carpet right next to my torn boarding pass. And the final image my family would have of me was Chloe. The failure, collapsing in the terminal. I felt gravity take hold. I closed my eyes, bracing for the impact. It never came. A hand caught me. It was not a gentle catch. It was precise, strong, and unyielding. An arm wrapped around my waist, halting my fall and pulling me upright with effortless stability. I gasped, my eyes flying open. I was pressed against a suit. The fabric was charcoal wool, incredibly fine, the kind that whispers of Savile Row and 5-figure price tags. I smelled rain, cedarwood, and something sharp and metallic, like cold cash. I looked up. The man holding me was tall, terrifyingly tall. He had a face that belonged on the cover of a financial magazine or a wanted poster's sharp jawline, eyes the color of dark slate, and a mouth that looked like it rarely smiled. He radiated a kind of kinetic energy that made the air around him feel charged. He was not just rich, he was powerful, the kind of powerful that makes the airport security line disappear. I knew him, not personally, but I knew the face. Asher Vale, tech billionaire, private equity shark, the man who bought failing companies, stripped them for parts, and sold the scraps for millions. He was the kind of man my brother-in-law Logan pretended to be when he looked in the mirror. "Breathe," he commanded. His voice was low, a rumble that vibrated against my ribs. I tried to pull away, mortified. "I'm sorry. Do not apologize," he said. He did not let go. His grip shifted, his hand moving to the small of my back, supporting me, but also claiming the space. He turned his head slightly. I realized he was looking down the jet bridge, watching the retreating backs of my family. Logan was pausing at the turn, looking back to see if I was crying. Asher Vale saw Logan looking, and then, the billionaire did something that made no sense. He stepped closer to me, eliminating the polite distance between strangers. He lowered his head until his lips were inches from my ear. I could feel the warmth of his breath, a stark contrast to the icy air conditioning of the terminal. "Logan Kincaid is watching," Asher whispered. I froze. He knew his name. "He wants to see you break," Asher continued, his voice a silky thread of steel. "He wants to see you on your knees, crying, begging the gate agent. He wants to know he won." I swallowed hard. "He took my passport. He took my money." "I know," Asher murmured. "I have nothing," I confessed, the tears finally threatening to spill over. "You have me," he said. I pulled back slightly to look at him, confused. His eyes were locked on mine, intense and unreadable. There was no pity in them. There was calculation. "Listen to me very carefully. Chloe," he said, "you are at a crossroads. You can collapse here, let security drag you away, and spend the rest of your life as the victim in their story. Or you can play a different game." "I don't know you," I managed to say. "You don't need to know me. You just need to know that I am the only way you are getting on that plane," he said. "I don't have a ticket." "Details," he dismissed. Logan was still watching from the glass partition of the jet bridge. He looked confused now. He saw a man in a suit that cost more than his car holding his sister-in-law. Asher's hand moved up to my cheek. His thumb brushed my skin. A gesture so intimate, it made my breath hitch. To anyone watching, it looked like a lover's caress. To me, it felt like a contract being signed. "Smile," he commanded softly. "What?" "Smile," he repeated. "He is watching. Show him he didn't kill you." My lips trembled, but I forced the corners up. It felt brittle, fake, but Asher nodded in approval. "Good," he whispered. "Now, here is the lie that is going to save your life. Whatever happens in the next 10 minutes, do not deny it. Do not correct me." "What lie?" I asked, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. Asher leaned in again, his lips brushing the shell of my ear. The scent of him, danger and luxury enveloped me. "You are my fiancé," he whispered. The world stopped. The announcement for final boarding was just white noise. "Trust me," he added. He pulled back, tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, and then turned his gaze toward the gate agents. He did not look at them. He looked through them. He raised one hand, a finger extended, summoning the lead attendant. "My fiancée seems to have misplaced her documents," Asher announced. His voice carried, authoritative and bored, as if this were a minor inconvenience in a life filled with grand events. "And we are running late." I stood there, anchored by his hand on my back. I looked toward the jet bridge. Logan's face was pressed against the glass, his mouth slightly open. My mother had stopped adjusting her scarf. For the first time in my life, I did not look down. I did not apologize for taking up space. I did not beg for a ride home. I looked at Logan. I looked at the man who had stolen my savings and my dignity. And then I looked at Asher Vale, the stranger who had just handed me a loaded weapon. I took a deep breath, and I smiled. 30 minutes before the stranger caught me at the gate, I was standing at the check-in counter, wishing I could dissolve into the polished terrazzo floor. The humiliation had started the moment we arrived at the terminal. I had my economy ticket pulled up on my phone, ready to stand in the snaking line that wrapped around the stanchions 3 times, but Logan had grabbed my elbow, his grip tight enough to numb my ulnar nerve, and steered the entire family toward the priority access lane. "Logan, I am not priority," I had whispered, trying to pull back. "I am in Zone 4. The agent is going to turn me away." "Do not be ridiculous," Logan scoffed, not even looking at me. He was busy adjusting the cuffs of his shirt, making sure his cufflinks caught the overhead light. "We are traveling as a unit. It looks disjointed if we split up. Just look bored and rich. Chloe, people only question you if you look like you do not belong." We marched up to the counter. The agent, a tired woman with heavy eyeliner and the patience of a saint, looked at Logan's first-class ticket, then my mother's, then Sienna's, then she looked at mine. "Ma'am, this is an economy saver fare," she said, her voice flat. "The bag drop for economy is around the corner, behind Pillar B." "She is with us," Logan said smoothly, leaning over the counter with that shark-like smile he used to close deals. "Family trip, my mother's 60th. We prefer to handle the check-in together to ensure our luggage stays grouped." The agent sighed, deciding it was not worth the fight. "Fine. Passport?" I handed mine over. She weighed my suitcase. It was a vintage leather trunk I had restored myself, heavy and solid, unlike the polycarbonate spinners the rest of my family used. "You are 5 pounds over," the agent said. "That will be $70 for the overweight fee." "Oh," I said, fumbling for my wallet. "Right, sorry. Just a second." I could feel the heat radiating off my mother standing behind me. Darlene Cole did not do delays. Darlene Cole did not do fumbling. "Hurry up, Chloe," my mother hissed. "People are looking." I pulled out my debit card and tapped it against the reader. Beep. The screen flashed red. Declined. My stomach dropped. That was impossible. I had transferred $1,500 into that checking account yesterday, specifically for emergencies and meals in Milan. "Try it again, please," I said, my voice rising an octave. "It must be the chip." I inserted the card this time. I typed my PIN. Beep. Declined. The silence that followed was louder than the terminal announcements. The businessman behind us cleared his throat. "Chloe," Logan said, his voice dripping with performative patience. "Do you not have another card?" "I do not understand," I stammered. I pulled up the banking app on my phone again. The circle spun, and then the dashboard loaded. My checking account balance was 0. My savings account, which held the down payment for my own storefront, was 0. I stared at the screen, my brain refusing to process the numbers. Or rather, the lack of numbers. "It is gone," I whispered. I looked up at Logan. "My money is gone. The app says, account frozen. Family asset consolidation. What is this?" Logan did not look surprised. He looked annoyed that I was bringing this up in public. "We talked about this, Chloe," he said, stepping in front of me to block the view of the people behind us. "The family trust restructuring. I moved all satellite accounts under the primary umbrella for tax efficiency. It is the end of the fiscal quarter. I needed to show higher liquidity to secure the loan for the Milan property acquisition." "You froze my personal bank account," I asked, my voice shaking. "Without telling me, Logan, I cannot buy a bottle of water, let alone pay for this bag." "You are so dramatic," my mother interceded. Stepping up to the counter, she did not offer to pay. She just looked at me with that familiar blend of pity and disdain. "This is why you should have taken that job Logan offered you at the firm instead of playing with trash." "It is not trash, Mom," I said, the old defense rising automatically. "I restore vintage luxury goods." "You dig through estate sales for dead people's purses," Logan corrected, chuckling as if it were a joke we all shared. "It is a hobby, Chloe, not a career, and clearly, It does not pay the bills if you are declining over a $70 charge. He turned to the agent, flashing a platinum card. Put her bag on my tab. Actually, no. Check it through. But we need to discuss the seating. The seating? The agent asked, taking Logan's card. Yes, Logan said. He leaned in closer. As you can see, we have 3 confirmed first-class seats and 1 economy. It is a corporate booking. We need to leverage the points from the economy fare to subsidize the upgrade costs on the other 3. I want to ensure my wife and mother-in-law have the lie-flat experience. You can absorb the value of this economy ticket into the upgrade fees. Correct. I stood there, blinking. Wait, what are you doing? Maximizing assets, Logan said without looking at me. You are canceling my ticket. I am converting your ticket, he said. The points value is better used to cover the taxes on the first-class upgrades. Otherwise, I would have to pay $4,000 out of pocket right now. This way. The system absorbs the cost. But where do I sit? I asked. Logan turned to me, his eyes dead flat. You don't... Not on this flight. Excuse me. There is another flight in 6 hours. Logan lied. I knew he was lying because his left eye twitched. A connection through Lisbon. It is cheaper. I will book you on that one once we land and the liquidity clears. You want me to wait here for 6 hours with no money? It is an airport. Chloe, it is free to sit. Sienna piped up. She had been silent until now, busy angling her phone for a selfie with the check-in desk in the background. She lowered her phone and looked at me. God, stop bringing down the energy. Milan vibes only. Okay, no negative energy. I have $0, I said to my sister. He took my savings. He is managing the family portfolio, Sienna parroted, clearly repeating a phrase she had heard Logan say 1,000 times. You should be grateful. He is going to make us all rich. I am already broke, I snapped. Lower your voice, my mother commanded. She adjusted her diamond earrings. You are embarrassing me. If you cannot behave like an adult, maybe you should not come at all. Mom, he is stealing my seat to pay for your upgrade, I said, desperate for her to see the reality. He is using my ticket so you can drink champagne before takeoff. My mother looked at the agent, then at the comfortable, wide seats pictured on the screen behind the counter. Then she looked at me. Well, she said, smoothing her skirt, it is my birthday. Chloe, it would be selfish of you to make me sit upright for 9 hours just so you can tag along. You know how my back gets. The betrayal hit me harder than the financial theft. It was a physical blow to the chest. Okay, I said, my voice barely a whisper. Okay, give me my passport. I am going home. I reached for my passport on the counter, but Logan's hand was faster. He snatched the dark blue booklet before I could touch it. I will hold on to this, he said. Logan, give it back. I cannot even get through security to the gate without it. Exactly, he said. He slipped my passport into the breast pocket of his blazer. I know you. Chloe, you have a martyr complex. You will try to max out a credit card to buy a new ticket just to follow us and make a scene on the plane. Or you will go home and do something spiteful, like calling the bank to report fraud, which would freeze all our assets while we are overseas. It is fraud, I cried. It is protection, he said. I am protecting the family from your instability. I will give this back to you when we return. Consider it a staycation. You are stranding me, I said. You are leaving me at Miami International with nothing. You are a smart girl, Logan said, turning back to the agent who was watching us with wide eyes. She is fine. Just process the upgrades. Please. The agent looked at me. Ma'am, do you consent to this ticket exchange? I looked at my mother. She was studying the ceiling. I looked at Sienna. She was typing a caption, Family First, Italy Bound. I looked at Logan. He was daring me. He knew I would not cause a scene loud enough to bring the police. He knew I had spent my entire life trying to smooth over the cracks in this family, trying to be the good daughter, the reliable one, the one who fixed things. Chloe, my mother said, a warning tone in her voice, Do not ruin this. I realized then what I was to them. Sienna was the star, the face, the one who shone. Logan was the director, the one who controlled the narrative and the money. My mother was the audience they performed for. And I was the stagehand. I was the one who swept up the broken glass. I was the one who sewed the hem of the dress 5 minutes before the curtain went up. And when the show started, the stagehand was supposed to disappear into the dark. If I screamed, if I called security, my mother would never forgive me. She would tell every relative, every friend, that Chloe ruined her 60th birthday because she was jealous and hysterical. I would be the villain for the next 20 years. Do it, I said to the agent. My voice sounded dead. The agent typed. The printer whirred. She handed Logan 3 boarding passes. Have a nice flight, she said. But she did not look at Logan. She looked at me with sad eyes. Logan did not say thank you. He gathered the passes and herded my mother and sister toward the security checkpoint. Wait by the baggage claim. Logan threw over his shoulder at me. I will text you when I have booked the connection. Might be tomorrow morning. Actually, just sit tight. They walked away. I stood there for a moment, the ghost of my family fading into the crowd. But I did not go to baggage claim. I did not go to the exit. I walked toward the gate. I did not have a boarding pass. But the security agent at the entrance to the terminal had been distracted by a crying baby, and I had slipped through in the chaos of a large tour group. It was a reflex, a habit. I always followed them. I always waited until the very last second, hoping they would turn around and say it was a mistake. I walked all the way to gate D12. I stood there and watched Logan tear up the original paper boarding pass I had printed at the kiosk an hour ago, the one I had dropped and he had picked up. He tore it not because he needed to, but because he enjoyed the sound. And that brought me to the moment where the billionaire whispered in my ear. The 30 minutes preceding this moment had been a systematic dismantling of my existence. They had taken my money, my identity, and my dignity. They had stripped me down to nothing. But standing there, with Asher Vale's hand warm and solid on my back, I realized something. When you strip a house down to the studs, when you tear out the rotting drywall and the warped floorboards, you aren't destroying it. You are preparing it. Logan thought he had demolished me. He thought he had left me in ruins. He forgot that restoration is what I do. I looked at Asher Vale's gray eyes. I did not see a savior. I saw a tool, a very expensive, very dangerous tool. And for the first time in my life, I was ready to use whatever was at hand to fix the rot. Yes, I said to Asher, loud enough for the gate agent to hear, loud enough for the world to hear, though my family was already disappearing down the jet bridge. I am ready, darling. I was not Chloe the fixer anymore. I was something else entirely, and the smile on my face was the sharpest thing I had ever forged. The walk from the gate to the curb was a blur of motion and terrifying efficiency. 2 men in dark suits, wearing earpieces, had flanked us the moment we left the boarding area, creating a moving wall that separated me from the rest of the world. I did not look back at the jet bridge. I could not afford to. My heart was beating a frantic rhythm against my ribs, a mixture of adrenaline and the cold, sinking realization of what I had just done. I had agreed to a lie with a man whose net worth could buy the entire airport. We stepped out into the humid Miami air, and a black armored SUV pulled up instantly. The door was opened for me. I climbed in, the scent of conditioned leather and sterile air conditioning hitting me. Asher climbed in beside me. Thud. The door closed, sealing us in silence. Click. The sound of the central locking system engaging was sharp and final. Panic, cold and primal, spiked in my chest. I scrambled for the handle, my fingers slipping on the polished metal. It would not budge. Child safety locks, or prisoner locks. Let me out, I gasped. Turning to face him, the space inside the car suddenly felt microscopic. Open the door, right now. Asher sat calmly, adjusting his cufflinks. He did not look like a kidnapper. He looked like a CEO reviewing a quarterly report. He glanced at me, his expression unreadable. Chloe, stop, he said. His voice was not loud, but it had the weight of an anchor. You locked me in. You are kidnapping me, I said, my voice rising. I don't know you. I made a mistake. Let me out. Think, he commanded. He pointed a finger toward the tinted window. Look outside. I followed his gaze. We were still curbside. Dozens of people were bustling around with luggage. A police officer was directing traffic 20 feet away, overhead. Security cameras were mounted on every pillar. If I wanted to harm you, Asher said, his tone clinical, I would not do it in front of 400 witnesses and 50 federal surveillance cameras. I am a public figure. You are a woman who was just publicly humiliated by her family. If you disappear, I am the first person the FBI visits. Does that sound like a good business strategy to you? Logic. He was hitting me with cold, hard logic. My breathing hitched, then slowed. He was right. It would be the stupidest crime in history. Then unlock the door, I said, though my voice was steadier. The doors are locked because we are moving, he said. He tapped the partition, and the driver pulled away from the curb, merging seamlessly into the traffic. And because we have work to discuss. Work? I asked. You just saved me from a family meltdown. That is not work. That is charity or pity. I do not do charity, Asher said. And I certainly do not do pity. Pity is a waste of capital. He reached into a leather portfolio sitting on the seat between us and pulled out a photograph. He slid it across the console toward me. I looked down. It was a high-resolution image of a handbag. Not just any handbag. It was a Hermes Himalaya Birkin, one of the rarest bags in the world, made of Niloticus crocodile dyed to resemble the snowy peaks of the Himalayas. But I knew this specific bag. I knew the microscopic fracture in the scale on the bottom left corner, near the stitching. I knew it because I had spent 40 hours under a magnifying glass filling that fracture with a custom resin blend. I mixed myself. This is the client from 6 months ago, I whispered. Mrs. Vanderhoven. She dropped it on a marble floor. She thought it was ruined, Asher said. She took it to 3 specialists in New York. They told her the structural integrity of the skin was compromised, and it could not be restored without visible scarring. Then she sent it to a small, unknown studio in Miami called Lumen Vault. He pulled out another photo. This one was a macro shot of the repair. It was flawless, invisible. You fixed it, Asher said. You did not just patch it. You reconstructed the cellular pattern of the hide. I had my team analyze the restoration. It is masterful. It is borderline alchemy. I looked up at him, confusion warring with pride. You follow my work. I have been tracking your output for 18 months, Asher revealed. The 1920s, Cartier mystery clock you revived, the burnt Louis Vuitton trunk from the Titanic era. You have a unique talent. Chloe, you see the truth in things. You see how they are made, and more importantly, you see where the lies are. You stalked me. I scouted you, he corrected. I was planning to approach you next month with a job offer, but then my surveillance team alerted me that your brother-in-law was liquidating your assets, and you were at the airport in distress. I accelerated the timeline. Surveillance team. I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. You knew Logan was stealing from me. I know a great deal about Logan Kincaid, Asher said, his eyes narrowing. But we will get to that. First, you need this. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a dark blue booklet. My passport. I gasped, snatching it from his hand. I opened it to make sure it was real. It was... My terrible photo stared back at me. How? I asked. He put it in his pocket. He was on the jet bridge. He was, Asher agreed. But before he stepped onto the plane, 2 very large, very polite gentlemen from my security detail stopped him. They informed him that transporting the identification documents of a U.S. citizen against their will is a federal offense punishable by up to 5 years in prison. They suggested he hand it over immediately to avoid a conversation with the airport police. And he gave it to them. Logan is a coward, Asher said dismissively. He handed it over and ran onto the plane. He probably thinks he can talk his way out of it later. Men like him always think there is a loophole. I held the passport to my chest. It felt like getting a limb reattached. "Thank you." "Do not thank me yet," he said. He opened a compartment in the console and took out a sleek black smartphone. "Your old phone is compromised. Logan has administrative access to your cloud accounts, which is how he tracked your location and locked your banking. This is a secure device. My tech team has already cloned your number and transferred your essential data contacts, photos, notes. But I have taken the liberty of blocking 3 numbers for the next 24 hours. My mother, Sienna, and Logan, I guessed. You need focus," Asher said. "If you listen to their voicemails, if you read their guilt-tripping texts, you will hesitate, and I cannot afford for you to hesitate." "Hesitate about what?" I asked. "What do you want from me?" "Asher." "You said you want me to work." "I am going to Milan to buy something," Asher said. "There is a gala being held at the Aurelia Opera House. It is a private auction for the most exclusive collectors in Europe. The centerpiece of the night is a necklace known as the Eye of Medici. It has not been seen in public for 80 years. "I know it," I said, my professional brain kicking in. 16th century emerald and gold setting, supposedly cursed, but the provenance is shaky. There are rumors that the original was broken down during World War II. "Exactly," Asher said, a flicker of approval in his eyes. "There are rumors that the version being sold tomorrow is a super fake, a forgery so perfect it has fooled the auction house's internal appraisers. Or perhaps the appraisers were paid to be fooled. And you want me to authenticate it?" "I want you to be the only eyes I trust," he said. "If I bid on this, I am putting down $40 million. I need to know it is real, but I cannot just bring an appraiser. The seller is paranoid. He only allows potential buyers and their immediate partners to handle the merchandise before the gavel falls. So that is why you need a fiancé," I realized. "I need access," Asher said, "and you need a way out of the hole your family threw you in." "That is it?" I asked, skeptical. "You are doing all this the rescue, the passport, the phone just to save yourself from buying a fake necklace. You could hire a dozen experts." Asher looked out the window. His jaw tightened. The air in the car shifted, becoming heavier. "There is one other thing," he said softly. "Logan Kincaid." "What about him?" "Your brother-in-law has been raising capital in New York and Miami for a fund he claims is backed by my private equity firm." Asher said, "He is using my name. He is showing investors forged emails and documents with my signature. He is telling people we are partners." I felt sick. "He is running a Ponzi scheme using your reputation." "He is," Asher confirmed. "And he is doing it badly. When it collapses, and it will collapse, people will lose their homes, retirements will be wiped out, and because my name is on the paperwork, the SEC will come for me. I will be tied up in investigations for years. My reputation will be stained." "So you want to sue him?" "I want to destroy him," Asher said. The violence in his voice was cold and precise. "I do not want a settlement. I do not want an apology. I want to catch him in the act of a felony so undeniable that he goes to prison for a very long time. And it just so happens that Logan is in Milan to meet a supplier for this fund. He thinks he is buying high-end assets to show his investors. I suspect he is buying fakes to cook the books." "He is going to the same gala," I whispered. It wasn't a question. "He is," Asher said. "He used the money he stole from you to buy his way in. He thinks he is going to network with billionaires. He thinks he is going to charm me into a real partnership." The pieces clicked together. The cruelty at the airport wasn't just Logan being mean. It was Logan feeling invincible. He thought he had the world on a string. "You want me to help you take down my sister's husband," I said. "I want you to help me take down the man who stole your life," Asher corrected. "He left you at an airport with nothing. He treated you like luggage he decided not to check. Are you going to protect him?" I thought of my mother's face as she looked away. I thought of Sienna's selfie. I thought of the way Logan smiled when he tore my ticket. "No," I said. "I am not going to protect him." "Then we have a deal," Asher asked. "You play the fiancé. You get me access to the necklace, and in exchange, I give you the resources to get your money back and watch Logan burn." I looked at him. He was handsome, rich, and dangerous. It would be so easy to just say yes and let him drive. But I remembered the lesson I had learned on the floor of the terminal. I was not a passenger anymore. "No," I said. Asher blinked, surprised. "No." "Not yet," I said. I sat up straighter, smoothing the wrinkles in my trench coat. "I am not doing this on a handshake. If I am going to walk into a den of wolves with you, and if I am going to help you send my brother-in-law to prison, I need guarantees." "Go on," Asher said, leaning back. He looked intrigued. "I want a contract," I said firmly. "I want it in writing that my role is strictly professional consultant and authenticator. I want a retainer fee of $50,000 deposited into an escrow account solely in my name before we land in Milan. So I am not dependent on you for money. I want a personal security detail that answers to me, not you, and I want a lawyer, one who represents my interests, not yours to review everything before I sign." I took a breath. "And if things go sideways, if Logan tries to hurt me, I want indemnification. You cover my legal costs. You cover my safety." Asher stared at me. The silence stretched for 5 seconds. I held his gaze, refusing to blink, though my hands were sweating. Then, a slow smile spread across his face. It was not the fake smile he had asked me for at the airport. It was genuine. It was the smile of a predator recognizing another predator. "50,000 is too low for the risk profile," Asher said. "Let us make it 100,000, and you will have your lawyer within the hour." He tapped the intercom button. "Route us to the private airfield." "And call legal?" He turned back to me. "I like a woman who knows her price. Chloe Green, welcome to the team." I looked out the window as the airport faded behind us. I was terrified. I was entering a war zone, but for the first time in 7 years. I wasn't entering it empty-handed. I had a contract, I had a job, and I had a target. The interior of the Gulfstream G650 was quieter than a library, at 45,000 feet. The only sound was the soft clink of crystal as a flight attendant placed a glass of sparkling water on the side table next to me. The seats were upholstered in cream leather that smelled like new money, and the cabin was spacious enough to play a game of tennis in. It was a violent contrast to the economy seat I had fought for, the one Logan had torn out of my hands just hours ago. I should have been sleeping. I should have been reviewing the contract my new lawyer had emailed me 30 minutes ago, a document that was surprisingly fair and fiercely protective of my rights. But I couldn't. The new phone Asher had given me was burning a hole in my pocket. I knew I was supposed to be in a blackout. I knew Asher had blocked their numbers, but he hadn't blocked the internet. Against my better judgment, I pulled the phone out and opened the social media app. My finger hovered over Sienna's icon. The little ring around her profile picture was pulsing red. Live. I tapped it. The screen filled with my sister's face, filtered to perfection. The background a blur of first-class cabin beige. She was holding a flute of champagne, giggling. "So, we are literally 30,000 feet over the Atlantic right now," Sienna chirped to her followers. "The service is immaculate. Mom is having a nap, but look who is awake." She panned the camera to the left. Logan was there, sipping a scotch, looking like the master of the universe. He winked at the camera. "Happy birthday week to the Queen, Darlene Cole," Logan said smoothly. "Only the best for this family. We are going to Milan to close a massive deal, but mostly, we are going to celebrate. And guys," Sienna whispered conspiratorially, "I know you are asking where Chloe is. My big sister is so dedicated. Honestly, she really wanted to come, but she got swamped with a huge restoration project at the last minute. She literally begged us to go without her. She said, 'Mom, go have fun. I have work to do.' Isn't she the sweetest?" I felt the blood drain from my face. "She is such a worker bee." My mother's voice drifted in from off-camera. Sienna panned to her. Mom was not asleep. She was flipping through a magazine, looking unbothered. "We miss her, of course, but you know Chloe. She prefers her dusty old workshop to the high life. She is happier there. Happier there, I repeated, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. Rage, hot and blinding, surged through me. I sat up straight, my thumb hovering over the comment box. I was going to type. I was going to type in all caps. They abandoned me. They stole my money. Logan is a liar. I started typing, my fingers trembling. I am not working. I am a hand covered the screen. It wasn't aggressive, but it was firm. Asher was sitting across from me, his laptop closed. I hadn't even noticed him move. "Do not," he said. "They are lying." I choked out, looking up at him. "They are erasing me. They are making it sound like I chose this, like I am some pathetic recluse who didn't want to come." "I know," Asher said. "I can hear them from here." "I have to correct the record," I said, trying to push his hand away. "If I post a comment now, everyone will see it. I can expose them right now." Asher gently took the phone from my hand and placed it face down on the table. He looked at me with that same intense, calculating gaze he had used in the car. Napoleon once said, "Never interrupt your enemy when he is making a mistake," Asher quoted. His voice was calm, a soothing balm against my frantic anger. "They aren't making a mistake," I argued. "They are winning. They are drinking champagne and getting likes while I'm sitting here." "You are sitting on a $65 million private jet." Asher interrupted. "You are not exactly suffering. Chloe." He reached into his leather briefcase and pulled out a thick manila folder. He slid it across the table toward me. "You want to hurt them with a comment on a live stream that is petty, that is small," Asher said. "A comment lasts for 5 seconds before it gets deleted or buried. You want to inflict real damage. You need ammunition, real ammunition." I looked at the folder. It had no label. "What is this?" "This," Asher said, "is the truth, not the version Logan tells your mother. Not the version Sienna tells the internet, the actual forensic truth of who Logan Kincaid is." I opened the folder. The first page was a summary sheet. It looked like a rap sheet, but for white-collar failures. "Logan Kincaid," I read aloud. "Born Logan Kyle, changed name in 2015, associated entities, Kincaid Capital, LK Holdings, Blue Horizon Vest. There are 12 companies here." "Shell companies," Asher explained. "Most of them are registered in Delaware or Nevada, states with high corporate privacy. They have no employees, no offices, and no products. They are just bank accounts with fancy names." I flipped the page. It was a list of lawsuits. "Breach of contract, unpaid wages, fraudulent inducement," I whispered. "There are judgments against him in Ohio and Florida." "Small ones," Asher noted. "He settles before they get to trial, or he bankrupts the shell company so the plaintiffs can't collect. He moves on. He is a parasite, Chloe. He finds a host, usually a family with some generational wealth but a desperate need for social validation, and he latches on. He targets status-hungry families," I said, reading the psychological profile on page 3. "Does that sound familiar?" Asher asked. I thought of my mother, Darlene Cole, who would eat cat food for a month if it meant she could buy a new season Chanel bag. Darlene, who was terrified of fading into irrelevance. Logan had played her perfectly. He hadn't just married Sienna, he had married my mother's insecurity. "He promises returns that defy market logic," Asher continued. 20% a month, 30% on a bridge loan. He pays the first few months religiously to build trust that is the hook. Then the payments become irregular. He blames market volatility or regulatory holdups, but he keeps the lifestyle flashy so the victims don't panic. They see the watch, the suits, the first-class tickets, and they think, "He must have the money. He is just busy." "My mother thinks he is a genius," I said. "She says he understands the new economy." "He understands how to rob Peter to pay Paul," Asher said. "But here is where it gets specific to you." He reached over and flipped to the back of the dossier. There was a copy of a legal document. It was a deed of trust. "Do you recognize this property?" Asher asked. I stared at the address. 429 Oakwood Lane, Tampa, Florida. That is our house, I said. The house I grew up in. My dad paid it off before he died. It is the only thing my mom actually owns free and clear. Not anymore, Asher said. The air in the cabin seemed to drop 10 degrees. I scanned the document. My eyes watered as I tried to make sense of the legal jargon. Grantor Darlene Cole, I read. Grantee Sunshine State Lending, LLC. Amount $450,000. Look at the date, Asher pointed. 3 months ago, I said. But Mom told me Logan was helping her restructure the equity to lower her taxes. She signed a power of attorney for him to handle her finances. He used that power of attorney to take out a hard money loan against the house, Asher explained. Do you know what a hard money loan is, Chloe? I shook my head, though the term sounded sharp and unforgiving. It is a loan of last resort, Asher said, his voice grim. High interest, short term, usually used by house flippers who need cash fast. The interest rate on this loan is 12%, compounding monthly, but the kicker is the balloon payment. He pointed to a line at the bottom. The full principal plus interest is due 90 days from signing, Asher said. I did the math in my head. 90 days from 3 months ago, that is. Tomorrow, Asher finished for me. I dropped the paper. My hands were shaking uncontrollably now. Tomorrow, you mean the day of the gala? Correct. Tomorrow is the maturity date. If the $450,000 plus interest is not wired to the lender by 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the lender has the right to initiate foreclosure proceedings immediately. In Florida, with a hard money contract like this, they can seize the property in a matter of weeks. She is going to lose the house, I whispered. She is in Milan, drinking champagne, and she is going to come home to a padlock on the door. She thinks the money is in an investment account, Asher said. She thinks Logan is growing it. She has no idea the house is the collateral. Where is the money? I asked. Where is the $450,000? Logan has it, Asher said. Or rather, he has what is left of it. He brought it to Milan. Why? To buy inventory, Asher said. He told his other investors, the ones in New York, that he has access to a rare collection of jewelry coming up for private sale. He needs to show them he bought something tangible to keep the scheme going. He is planning to use your mother's house money, plus the money he stole from your account, to buy a piece at the gala. But you said he buys fakes, I said. He does, Asher said. He is going to pay a few $100,000 for a piece that looks like it is worth $5 million. Then he will appraise it himself, or have a crooked friend do it, and tell the investors the fund is up. He buys himself another 6 months of luxury. And the house? I asked. What happens when the loan defaults tomorrow? He will let it go, Asher said simply. He will tell your mother the market crashed, or that there was a legal error. He will gaslight her. He will say, at least we still have the investments. He will sacrifice her home to keep his Ponzi scheme breathing for another season. I looked out the porthole. The clouds were a seamless white sheet below us. I hated my mother in that moment. I hated her vanity. I hated how she had looked at me at the airport, like I was a stain on her perfect picture. I hated that she loved Logan more than she respected me. If I did nothing, she would lose everything. She would be homeless. It would be the ultimate punishment for her cruelty. She would have to crawl to me for help. Why are you telling me this now? I asked, turning back to Asher. We are hours away from landing. There is nothing I can do from a plane. I am telling you because I need you to understand the stakes, Asher said. This is not just about a necklace I want to buy. This is about a predator who is hours away from destroying your family permanently. You want me to save her, I said, bitterness coating my voice. After she left me, I do not care about your mother, Asher said cold-bloodedly. She is a foolish woman who signed her name without reading. In my world, that makes her a casualty. He leaned forward, his eyes locking onto mine. I care about you. Chloe, you are my asset now, and I cannot have my asset distracted by emotional baggage. If we land in Milan, and you are still wondering if you should protect them, or if you are paralyzed by the hope that they might love you, we will fail. I don't hope they love me, I lied. You do, Asher countered. You are the fixer. You fix broken bags. You fix broken watches. You think if you just work hard enough, you can fix broken people. You think if you save the house, she will finally look at you and say, "Thank you." He waited, letting the words sink in. They hurt because they were true. She won't, Asher said softly. Even if you save the house, she will credit Logan. She will say he fixed it. I looked at the dossier again. I saw the web of lies Logan had spun. I saw the signature of my mother, shaky and desperate. So what do? I asked. Let it burn. No, Asher said. You take the matches away from the child. You stop the fire. But you do not do it for her. You do it because you are the one who decides what has value and what does not. He tapped the photo of the house. I have a team ready to acquire that note from the lender. Asher revealed. I can buy the debt on your house before the deadline tomorrow. I can stop the foreclosure. My heart leaped. You would do that? I can, he repeated. But I won't do it as a favor. I will do it as a transaction. If you deliver for me in Milan, if you help me expose Logan and authenticate the Medici necklace, I will hand you the deed to that house. Not to your mother, to you. I stared at him. To me. You become the owner, Asher said. You hold the leverage. Your mother keeps a roof over her head, only if you allow it. You stop being the daughter who begs for affection, and you become the landlord. The realization washed over me. It was terrifying. It was empowering. It wasn't revenge. Revenge was throwing a drink in someone's face. Revenge was posting a comment on a live stream. This was a hostile takeover. I looked at the live stream, which had ended. The screen was black, reflecting my own face. I looked different. My eyes were harder. He is going to try to buy a fake at the gala, I said, my mind racing, connecting the dots. He is going to use the money meant for the house payment to buy a prop. And you are going to be there, Asher said. You are the expert. You are going to be the one who calls it out. He will recognize me, I said. He thinks I am in Miami. He will see a woman in a couture gown, on the arm of a billionaire, wearing diamonds he could never afford. Asher said, he won't believe it is you until it is too late. I closed the folder. I ran my hand over the cover. The texture was rough under my fingertips. Okay, I said. I am not doing this to save her. She made her choice. Good, Asher said. I am doing this because that house is the only thing my father left, I said. And Logan Kincaid is not allowed to sell my father's memory to buy himself a fake reputation. Now you are thinking like a shark, Asher said, a small, genuine smile touching his lips. No, I corrected him, looking him dead in the eye. I am thinking like an authenticator, and I just spotted a very bad forgery. I picked up my glass of sparkling water. My hand was steady. Let's go to Milan. Asher, I have some trash to take out. The Hotel Orlean did not look like a hotel. It looked like a fortress built by a Renaissance duke who had too much gold and too many enemies. The lobby was a cavern of black marble and gold leaf, smelling of tuberose and old money. It was the kind of place where tourists were politely escorted out before they could even reach the reception desk. My family was staying at a chain hotel 3 blocks away, a place that used words like luxury in its brochure, but served powdered eggs at breakfast. I knew this because Logan had bragged about the deal he got on the rooms. But I was here. Asher had booked the penthouse suite, a sprawling space that felt less like a room and more like a separate sovereign state. But I did not have time to admire the frescoed ceilings or the view of the Duomo. I was currently standing on a podium in the center of the living room, surrounded by a team of 3 people who looked at me not as a human being, but as a raw material that needed refining. Posture, the lead stylist, a severe Italian woman named Elena, commanded. She tapped my shoulder blade with a manicured finger. You are slouching. You are collapsing into yourself. Why? Habit, I muttered, straightening my spine. Habit of the invisible, Elena corrected, her voice sharp. Tonight, you are visible. You are wearing $50,000 of silk and structure. If you slouch, you look like a child playing dress-up. If you stand tall, you look like you own the building. She zipped the dress. It was not the kind of dress I would ever choose. I liked soft fabrics, things that allowed me to move and hide. This dress was armor. It was a deep, midnight blue architectural piece, structured and stiff, with a neckline that plunged dangerously and a waist that cinched tight enough to remind me to breathe shallowly. It exposed my shoulders and my back, leaving me feeling terrifyingly vulnerable, yet strangely protected. Shoes, Elena snapped. An assistant knelt and strapped sandals onto my feet. The heels were 4 inches of razor-thin metal. Walk, Elena ordered. I took a step and wobbled. No, she said, disgusted. You are walking like you are afraid to scratch the floor. Walk like you are the one who paid for it. I looked at Asher. He was leaning against the doorframe, sipping an espresso, watching the transformation with clinical interest. He wasn't looking at my body. He was looking at the package he was about to present to the market. Imagine you are holding the Birkin you restored, Asher said softly. Imagine you are the only person in the room who knows the secret. You have the knowledge. They are just guessing. I closed my eyes. I thought about the studio. I thought about the moment I found a fake stitch, the moment I knew I was right and the rest of the world was wrong. I felt that cold, hard certainty settle in my chest. I opened my eyes. I lifted my chin. I took a step, then another. I did not look down. I let the metal heels click against the parquet floor, a rhythm of assertion. Better, Elena noted, stepping back. Now, the jewelry. She clasped a diamond choker around my neck. It was cold and heavy. This is not just dinner, Asher said, pushing off the doorframe. He walked over to me, standing close enough that I could smell the sandalwood of his cologne. This is the weigh-in. Your family is downstairs in the bar. They are trying to network. They are loud. They are desperate. They are here, I asked, my pulse jumping. They think this is where the real players hang out, Asher said. They are right, but they are not players. They are spectators, and in 5 minutes, they are going to see you. He offered me his arm. Are you ready to be the fiancé? He asked. I looked at myself in the floor-to-ceiling mirror. The woman staring back was not Chloe the fixer. She was sleek, sharp, and expensive. She looked like she could cut glass with her gaze. I am ready, I said. We took the private elevator down. The descent was smooth, silent. When the doors slid open, the noise of the lobby bar washed over us, the clink of glasses, the murmur of 100 conversations, the low thrum of jazz. Asher did not hesitate. He led me straight into the center of the room. The effect was instantaneous. Heads turned. People in this world smelled power, and Asher radiated it, but then their eyes shifted to me. I felt their gaze, analyzing, appraising. Who is she? Is she a model, an heiress? I kept my face impassive, bored, just like Elena had taught me. And then I saw them. They were sitting at a corner table near the service entrance, the worst table in the room. Naturally, Logan was gesturing wildly with a cigar he hadn't lit, talking to a bored-looking couple who were clearly trying to leave. My mother was scanning the room, her eyes hungry. Sienna was, as always, on her phone. Asher steered us directly past them. My mother saw Asher first. Her eyes widened. She recognized the money before she recognized the man. She nudged Sienna. Then Sienna looked up. Her jaw literally dropped. Chloe. The name came out as a squeak. I stopped. Asher stopped. We turned slowly, as if moving through water. I looked down at them. My mother was wearing a dress that was too loud, too floral for an evening in Milan. Sienna was in a short, sequined number that looked cheap under the crystal chandeliers. Logan was frozen, his hand halfway to his glass. Hello, Mother, I said. My voice was calm, distinct. Sienna, Logan, you. My mother stood up, knocking her purse over. You are in Miami. We left you at the airport. Clearly, I found a better way to travel, I said, tilting my head slightly. But how? Sienna stammered, standing up too. She looked from me to Asher, her brain short-circuiting. You have no money. You have no passport. I have friends, I said, tightening my grip on Asher's arm. Friends. Logan stood up now, his eyes darting between Asher and me. He didn't look at my face. He looked at the dress, the diamonds, the shoes. He was calculating the cost. Chloe, what is going on? Who is this? Asher Vale, Asher said smoothly, extending a hand but not stepping closer. And this is my fiancée, Chloe. Fiancé, Darlene shrieked. It was meant to be a whisper, but it came out as a shriek, heads turned. Since when? You never told us you knew Asher Vale. We prefer privacy, Asher said, especially from people who tear up boarding passes. Logan paled. He recognized the threat. But my mother, ever the opportunist, switched gears so fast it was dizzying. Her shock melted into a syrupy, terrifying smile. She stepped around the table, arms open. Oh, my baby, she cried, rushing toward me. I knew it. I knew you were planning a surprise. That is why you didn't get on the plane, isn't it? You wanted to beat us here? Oh, Asher, is it welcome to the family? She reached out to hug me. I didn't move. I didn't hug back. I stood like a statue. We are in the middle of dinner, Darlene, I said, using her first name. It stopped her cold. Sienna. Seeing the attention shifting to me, seeing the way people were whispering and looking at my dress, could not handle it. She was the main character. I was the extra. This was a violation of the script. That dress is a rental, right? Sienna said, stepping forward with a glass of red wine in her hand. Her smile was brittle. I saw that on a mannequin in the window. It doesn't really fit you. Chloe, it is bunching at the waist. She moved in close, pretending to inspect the fabric. Yeah, look, right here. It happened fast, but I saw it coming. I saw her wrist flick. The wine sloshed out of the glass. It wasn't a splash. It was a deluge. A dark purple stain spread instantly across the structural fold of my midnight blue skirt, right at the thigh. The crowd gasped. Oh my God, Sienna cried, her hand flying to her mouth in mock horror. I am so clumsy. Oh, Chloe, I ruined it. You are going to have to pay for that rental now. My mother looked horrified, not for me, but for the scene. Logan looked annoyed. I looked down at the stain. It was bad. On any other night, I would have run to the bathroom to cry. I would have let Sienna comfort me while secretly gloating. But I was an authenticator. I dealt with damaged goods every day. I knew that a flaw was only a flaw if you tried to hide it. If you owned it, it became a feature. I did not flinch. I did not scream. I reached into my clutch and pulled out the small, sharp styling pin Elena had given me for emergencies. It is fine, I said, my voice projecting clearly over the hush. Actually, the symmetry of this hem was boring me anyway. I bent down. With a swift, decisive motion, I gathered the stained fabric. I didn't try to wipe it. Instead, I pulled the heavy silk upwards, creating a deep, dramatic drape at my hip. I used the pin to secure the gathered fabric to the waistline. The result was aggressive and avant-garde. The floor-length gown was now a high-low sculptural piece, exposing my left leg and the metallic heel, with the fabric cascading down in chaotic, beautiful pleats that completely hid the wine stain in the shadows of the folds. I stood up. I adjusted the drape. It looked like it had been designed that way, daring, asymmetrical, punk rock couture. I looked at Sienna. Better, I said. Thank you for the suggestion. The room was silent for 1 second. Then, someone started clapping. It was an older woman at the next table, a fashion editor I recognized from magazines. She nodded at me. Brilliant, she murmured. Absolutely brilliant. Sienna turned red. She had tried to throw paint on a masterpiece, and I had just signed it. Shall we? I asked Asher. We shall, Asher said, He looked at me with something that wasn't acting. It was respect. We turned to leave. But Logan wasn't done. He saw the shift in the room. He saw that I was winning, and he needed to attach himself to the winner. "Asher, wait," Logan called out. Stepping in front of us, he buttoned his jacket, putting on his business face. "Since we are all here, and we are practically family now, I have an opportunity I wanted to run by you. Kincaid Capital is opening a new tranche for high net worth individuals. I am meeting a supplier tomorrow for some exclusive assets. I could let you in on the ground floor." It was pathetic. He was pitching a Ponzi scheme to one of the smartest investors in the world, in the middle of a hotel lobby. While his wife wiped wine off her hands in the background, Asher stopped. He looked at Logan the way a lion looks at a limping gazelle. "I am aware of your activities, Logan," Asher said. His voice was polite, but his eyes were dead. "Chloe has told me everything about your business model." Logan's eyes flicked to me. Panic flared. Then he masked it. "Oh, well, Chloe doesn't really understand finance. She is more of a craftsperson." "She understands value," Asher said, "which is rare." Asher leaned in, repeating the move he had made at the airport. But this time the energy was different. It wasn't protective. It was predatory. "Enjoy the gala tomorrow," Asher said. "I hear the security is very strict about authenticating the guests. Make sure your credentials are in order." He steered me away before Logan could respond. We walked toward the elevators, leaving my family standing in the wreckage of their own attempt at sabotage. When the elevator doors closed, shielding us from the lobby, I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. My knees felt like water. "You did well," Asher said quietly. "I ruined a $50,000 dress," I said, looking down at my makeshift alteration. "You increased its value," Asher corrected. "You made it a story." He turned to me. The elevator rose, lifting us above the city. "Tonight, I lied for you," Asher whispered, echoing the promise he had made in the car. But the words felt heavier now. "I told them we are engaged. I told the world you are mine." He reached out and touched the diamond choker at my throat. His fingers brushed my pulse point. It was racing. "But tomorrow," he continued, "the truth will speak for us. When Logan walks into that gala, he is going to walk into a trap that you helped set. Are you still with me?" I thought about Logan's face in the lobby. I thought about the way his eyes had darted to my wrist right before we walked away. I had seen it. He wasn't looking at a bracelet. He was looking at my skin. "He looked at my wrist," I said, a sudden realization chilling me. "Why?" Asher asked. "There is a scar there," I said, rubbing the spot. "From a soldering iron burn when I was 20. He knows it is there. He was checking to see if I was a body double. He thinks this is a trick. He thinks you hired someone to look like me to mess with him. He cannot conceive that you could actually belong in this world," Asher said. "His arrogance blinds him." "No," I said, looking at the metal doors. "It is not just arrogance. He is scared. He looked at me like I was a ghost." "Good," Asher said. "Ghosts are terrifying because you cannot kill them twice." The elevator dinged. The doors opened to the penthouse. "Get some sleep. Chloe," Asher said. "Tomorrow, we go hunting." I walked into my room, the heavy silk of the dress rustling around my legs. I didn't feel like a fiancé. I didn't feel like a victim. I felt like the bait in a very expensive, very dangerous trap. And for the first time, I was looking forward to the snap. Sablestone was the kind of restaurant that felt more like a bank vault than a dining establishment. The walls were lined with rough-hewn slate. The lighting was aggressively dim, and the tables were spaced so far apart that you could confess a murder without the next table hearing a word. It was the perfect setting for an execution, which was exactly what Asher had planned. We were seated at a circular booth in the back. Asher sat to my right, his arm casually draped along the back of the leather seat, his fingers brushing my shoulder every few minutes, a territorial display that made Logan twitch. My family sat across from us. They looked out of place, trying too hard to blend into the quiet, menacing elegance of the room. The waiter poured a vintage Barolo that cost more than my monthly rent. Darlene picked up her glass, swirling it aggressively as if she were in a movie about sommeliers. "This is lovely, Asher," my mother cooed, her voice dripping with a sickly sweetness that made my stomach turn. "It is so nice to finally meet the man who has swept our Chloe off her feet. We were worried, she is so solitary." "Solitary," Asher repeated, raising an eyebrow. "I find her quite engaging." "Oh, you know what I mean," Darlene said, waving a hand dismissively. "Chloe has always been the quiet one. She spends all her time in that dusty little workshop of hers, smelling like glue and chemicals. It is a very small life. We keep telling her she should aim higher, like Logan." She placed a hand on Logan's arm, beaming at him. "Logan deals with the big picture, finance, global markets, real estate. That is where the real world is, not digging through old trunks for used handbags." I gripped the stem of my wine glass. The insult was practiced. She had said variations of it for 10 years, but hearing it here, in front of the man she was trying to impress, it stung differently. She was actively devaluing me to inflate Logan's stock price. "Restoration is an art, Darlene," Asher said, his voice cool and even. "It requires an eye for detail that most people lack. In my line of work, detail is the difference between a billion-dollar exit and a bankruptcy." Logan cleared his throat. Sensing an opening to talk about himself, he adjusted his tie, puffing out his chest. "Exactly. Asher, detail is key," Logan said, leaning forward. "That is exactly my philosophy at Kincaid Capital. We don't just follow the market trends, we anticipate them. My algorithm, it is proprietary, obviously, but it leverages micro fluctuations in luxury asset classes to generate alpha." "Is that so?" Asher asked, leaning back. He looked like a panther watching a mouse explain how to build a trap. "And what kind of returns are you seeing with this algorithm?" "Conservative estimates." Logan smiled, a greasy, confident expression. "We are tracking at 8% monthly, but on the aggressive portfolio we are hitting 25 to 30%. I almost choked on my water. 30% a month. It was mathematically impossible for a legitimate fund. It was the classic promise of a Ponzi scheme. 30%, Asher repeated, his face a mask of polite intrigue. "That is remarkable. Even the Medallion Fund doesn't sustain those numbers. How are you hedging against the volatility?" Logan blinked. He hadn't expected a technical question. He expected awe. "Well, we diversify," Logan stammered, using the buzzword like a shield. "We are heavy in hard assets, gold, art, horology. That is actually why I am in Milan. I am acquiring a significant package for the fund tomorrow." "Horology," Asher said. "Watches." "Yes," Logan said, regaining his footing. "I have a lead on a Patek Philippe Grand Complication. A steal. Really. The seller doesn't know what he has." "Amazing," Sienna chimed in, glaring at me. "Logan is literally a genius with this stuff. He bought me a Cartier last month that has already doubled in value. Meanwhile, Chloe is still wearing that old thing." She gestured vaguely at my wrist. I wasn't wearing a watch. I was wearing a diamond tennis bracelet Asher had given me in the car part of the costume, he had said, but inside the platinum setting of the central stone was a microscopic microphone and transmitter. "Chloe is doing just fine," Asher said, tightening his grip on my shoulder. "She does not need to flip watches to understand value." "She is just a +1, Sienna muttered into her wine glass, loud enough for me to hear. "Always riding someone else's coattails. First Dad's, now yours." My mother laughed, a harsh, brittle sound. "Sienna, be nice. Chloe is trying. It is not her fault she does not have your charisma. We just want her to be secure. That is why Logan handles the family finances now, to make sure Chloe does not make any mistakes." I looked at my mother. I looked at the woman who had birthed me, who had left me at an airport gate 6 hours ago. She wasn't just weak. She was complicit. She enjoyed seeing me small because it made her feel big. My phone buzzed in my clutch. I ignored it. It buzzed again, and again. I glanced down. A text message notification lit up the screen. Sender Logan, text bathroom hallway, now, or I make a call and the house is gone by morning. I looked up. Logan was smiling at Asher, talking about interest rates, but his eyes were fixed on me. They were cold, dead eyes. "Excuse me," I said, standing up. My legs felt heavy. "I need to powder my nose." "Hurry back, darling," Asher said. He didn't look at me, but he tapped his index finger against the table twice. It was a signal. Record everything. I walked toward the back of the restaurant, past the kitchen doors, into the dimly lit corridor that led to the restrooms. The walls were lined with black velvet. It was silent here. The noise of the dining room dampened by the heavy fabric. I waited. 10 seconds later, the heavy door swung open. Logan stepped in. He didn't look like the charming businessman anymore. His face was flushed with wine and rage. He closed the distance between us in 2 strides, grabbing my upper arm and pinning me against the velvet wall. "What game are you playing?" "Chloe," he hissed, his breath smelling of expensive red wine and rot. "Let go of me," I said, my voice steady despite the hammering of my heart. I twisted my arm, but his grip was iron. "You show up here, dressed like a high-end escort, holding hands with Asher Vale." Logan spat. "Who did you screw to get in that dress? Or did you just lie to him? Does he know you are a broke shop girl who can't even afford a plane ticket?" "He knows enough," I said. "He knows you are a fraud." "Logan," Logan laughed. It was a wet, ugly sound. "He thinks I am a genius. Did you hear him? He is interested. He wants to invest, and you are going to help me close him." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a watch case. He snapped it open. Inside sat a watch. It was an Audemars Piguet Royal Oak offshore, gold on gold. To the untrained eye, it was a $50,000 statement piece. "This," Logan said, holding it up to my face, "is what I am going to sell him tonight. I am going to tell him it is a rare limited edition from the 2010 collection. I need a liquidity injection to cover the overhead on the fund. I am going to offer it to him for $40,000 as a sign of good faith." I looked at the watch. Even in the dim light, I saw it. The brushing on the bezel was too coarse. The spacing on the tapisserie dial was off by a fraction of a millimeter. The date window font was slightly too bold. "It is a fake," I said. "It is a super clone, probably from a factory in Guangzhou. It is worth $500. Maybe—" "Shut up," Logan snarled. "It is real if an expert says it is real, and you are the expert." "I am not going to lie for you," I said. "I am not going to help you steal from him. You are going to do exactly what I tell you," Logan said. He released my arm and pulled out his phone. He swiped through a few screens and shoved the device in my face. It was a PDF document. General power of attorney. Signed Darlene Cole. "Read the addendum." "Chloe," Logan commanded. My eyes scanned the small print, granting full authority to liquidate, encumber, or transfer any real property assets for the purpose of investment liquidity. "I control the house," Logan whispered, leaning close to my ear. "I control your mother's accounts. I control everything. The payment on the hard money loan is due tomorrow. If I do not wire that money by 5 o'clock, the foreclosure starts. But even worse, I can sell it tonight. I can sign a quitclaim deed to one of my partners in Nevada right now, and the house is gone forever. Your dad's house, gone." I stared at him. He was a monster. He wasn't just desperate. He was malicious. "You wouldn't," I said. "Mom lives there." "Darlene will do whatever I tell her," Logan said. "I will tell her it was a necessary sacrifice to save the family fortune. She will believe me. She always believes me. But you will know that you let it happen." He stepped back, snapping the watch case shut. "Here's the deal," he said. "We go back to the table. I am going to show Asher the watch. You are going to look at it. You are going to tell him it is magnificent. You are going to vouch for its provenance. You are going to make him buy it." And if I don't, then I send a text, Logan said, thumbing his screen. And tomorrow morning, your mother is homeless. I looked at the bracelet on my wrist. I hoped the microphone was sensitive enough to catch the whisper of his threat. I hoped the lawyer Asher had hired was listening. I had to play the part. I had to be the victim one last time. I let my shoulders slump. I let my lower lip tremble. I made myself small, just the way he liked. Please, I whispered. Don't sell the house. Then do your job, Logan said, smirking. He tucked the watch back into his pocket. Be a good little sister-in-law. Fix this for me. Okay, I said, my voice breaking perfectly. Okay, I will say it is real. Good girl, Logan said. He reached out and patted my cheek. His hand was cold and clammy. Fix your face. You look like a mess. He turned and walked back toward the dining room, adjusting his cuffs as he went. I stood alone in the hallway for a moment. I looked at the mirror on the wall. The woman in the reflection was not a mess. Her eyes were dry. Her jaw was set. I reached down to my wrist and pressed the tiny clasp on the bracelet 3 times the signal Asher had taught me. Recording secured. Upload complete. The audio of Logan admitting to the fraud, admitting to the coercion, admitting that the watch was a prop. It was all on a secure server now. It was already in the inbox of a relentless attorney in New York. Logan thought he had a gun to my head. He didn't realize I had just removed the bullets. I took a deep breath. I smoothed the silk of my dress over my hip. I walked back into the dining room. The atmosphere at the table was tense. Asher was swirling his wine, looking bored. Darlene was nervously picking at a breadstick. Sienna was scrolling through Instagram. When I sat down, Logan beamed at me. Everything all right? Asher asked, turning to me. Fine, I said. Just needed to freshen up. Logan was just telling us about this investment opportunity, Asher said, his eyes locking onto mine. He was reading my face. He was looking for the signal. Yes, Logan said, pulling the watch case out of his pocket. He placed it on the table with a theatrical flourish. The Audemars Piguet I mentioned. I happen to have it on me. I was going to bring it to the vault tomorrow. But since we are here... He opened the box. The gold glinted under the dim lights. It is a beast, Logan said. Royal Oak Offshore. The weight alone tells you the quality. I can let this go for $40,000. It is easily worth $60,000 on the secondary market. He slid the box toward Asher. I am not a watch expert, Asher said. Not even looking at it. He looked at me. But Chloe is... Darling, what do you think? Logan stared at me. His eyes were wide, manic. Say it. His expression screamed, say it or the house burns. I reached out. I picked up the watch. I held it in my hand, feeling the cheap imbalance of the rotor inside. It was garbage. I looked at Logan. I gave him a small, terrified smile. It is, I started. Logan nodded slightly. It is incredible, I lied. The finishing is exactly what you would expect from Logan. See, Logan exhaled, turning to Asher. She knows. If Chloe says it is real, Asher said. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a checkbook. My mother gasped. Sienna stopped scrolling. 40,000, you said, Asher asked, uncapping a fountain pen. 40, Logan said, his voice trembling with greed. Make it out to Kincaid Capital. Asher wrote the check. He tore it out with a crisp, ripping sound that echoed the sound of my boarding pass tearing earlier that day. He slid the check across the table. Logan grabbed it. He stared at the numbers. He looked like he had just won the lottery. Pleasure doing business, Asher said. He picked up the fake watch and dropped it carelessly into his pocket, scratching the case against his keys. Logan winced but didn't say a word. He had the money. Well, Asher said, standing up, I think that concludes our evening. We have a big day tomorrow. Yes, of course, Logan said, standing up too, practically bowing. Thank you, Asher. You will not regret this. I never regret my investments, Asher said. I always get exactly what I pay for. I stood up. I looked at my mother. "Good night, Mom," I said. "Good night, Chloe," she said, barely looking at me. She was staring at the check in Logan's hand. "You finally did something useful." I walked away with Asher. I felt the weight of their gaze on my back. As we stepped out into the cool Milanese night, the valet opened the door to the SUV. "Did you get it?" Asher asked quietly as we slid into the back seat. "Every word," I said. "He threatened to sell the house. He admitted the watch is a fake. He admitted the coercion." "And the check?" I asked. "You just gave him $40,000. Asher smiled. It was a terrifying smile. "It is a post-dated check drawn on a closed account," Asher said. "By the time he tries to cash it tomorrow, his accounts will be frozen by the authorities based on the audio evidence you just sent. But tonight, he thinks he is rich. He will sleep soundly." I leaned back against the leather seat. "He won't sleep soundly tomorrow," I said. "No," Asher agreed. "Tomorrow, he wakes up in a nightmare." I looked out the window at the passing streetlights. I wasn't afraid anymore. I wasn't the girl crying at the airport. I was the girl who had just handed her enemy the rope he would use to hang himself. And I couldn't wait to kick the chair. The morning sun hitting the terrace of the Hotel Aureline was blinding, but it was nothing compared to the glare coming from my phone screen. I sat at the marble island in the penthouse kitchen, a cup of coffee untouched in front of me. My new phone, the one Asher had given me to keep me focused, was vibrating incessantly. I had made the mistake of unblocking Sienna's social media profile for 30 seconds, just to see the landscape of the battlefield. It was a massacre. Sienna had posted a video at 3 a.m. She was sitting on the edge of her hotel bed, her mascara artfully smeared, clutching a pillow. The caption read, "The truth about my sister. Heartbroken." "I did not want to do this," Sienna sobbed into the camera, her voice cracking with a theatricality that made my stomach churn. "But everyone is asking why Chloe wasn't on the flight with us. The truth is she left us. We were at the gate, begging her to come for Mom's birthday, and she just walked away. She said she found a better offer. She literally abandoned her own mother at the airport to run off with some billionaire she met 5 minutes ago." She wiped a tear that may or may not have been real. "And then seeing her tonight wearing that dress, acting like she doesn't know us, it just hurts. I guess money changes people. I guess family isn't enough for some people. We are just praying she comes back to herself." The comments were scrolling by so fast I could barely read them. What a snake. Gold digger energy. Poor Mom. Happy birthday. Darlene. Team Sienna. I felt a phantom pain in my chest. It wasn't heartbreak. It was the sting of injustice. They had stranded me. They had stolen my money, and now they were rewriting history to make me the villain. "I have to reply," I said, my voice tight. "I have the recording of Logan. I can post it. I can show everyone what really happened." Asher walked into the kitchen. He was already dressed in a crisp white shirt and dark trousers, looking as if he had been awake for hours. He took the phone from my hand and slid it across the marble, out of reach. "No," he said. "They are destroying my reputation," I argued. "They are painting me as a sociopath." "They are painting you as ambitious," Asher corrected. He poured himself a coffee. "In your world, the world of fixing old purses in a back room, being called a gold digger is an insult. But in my world, in the world of high-stakes auctions and 8-figure assets, being called cold, calculating, and money-hungry is not an insult. It is a resume." I stared at him. "You want me to let them think I am a monster? I want you to use the momentum," Asher said. "Sienna just told 200,000 people that you are ruthless enough to cut off your family for an upgrade. Do you know what that tells the collectors we are meeting this morning? It tells them you are not swayed by sentiment. It tells them you care about value above all else. That makes you trustworthy as an authenticator." "That is twisted," I said. "That is marketing," Asher replied. "Do not fight them in the comments section. Chloe, that is a muddy pit. You win by standing on a stage so high they cannot reach your ankles. He checked his watch. Drink your coffee. We have a private viewing in 20 minutes. 3 of the biggest collectors in Europe are coming to see if my fiancé is the real deal. The viewing room was a small, climate-controlled parlor on the second floor of the hotel. In the center of the room sat a trunk. It was a 19th-century Goyard travel chest, covered in the iconic chevron canvas, but it was in terrible shape. The leather trim was rotting, the brass was green with oxidation, and the wood was warped. 3 men stood around it. One was a Russian oligarch who collected Fabergé eggs, one was a French textile magnate, and the third was the curator of a private museum in Geneva. They looked at me with skepticism. They had seen Sienna's video. I could see it in their eyes. They expected a pretty accessory on Asher's arm, a woman who knew how to spend money but not how to respect it. "Gentlemen," Asher said, "you know the piece. You have debated its provenance. My fiancée, Chloe, believes she has found something you missed." The French magnate sniffed. "It is a standard steamer trunk. Asher, heavily water-damaged. The value is negligible." I stepped forward. I did not smile. I did not try to be charming. I pulled a pair of white cotton gloves from my pocket and snapped them on. The sound was sharp in the quiet room. "It is water-damaged," I agreed, running my hand over the warped lid. "But not by rain." I knelt down. I took a small UV light from my pocket and shone it on the brass lock plate. "Look at the oxidation pattern," I said, my voice dropping into the professional register that always made me feel safe. "Natural saltwater corrosion creates a pitting effect. This is smooth. This was submerged, likely in fresh water, and then rapidly dried near a heat source. That is why the wood warped inward, not outward." I opened the trunk. The smell of must and cedar filled the air. I pulled out a small lining tool and lifted the corner of the interior fabric, just a millimeter. "And here," I pointed, "the serial number is stamped, not handwritten. Goyard switched to stamping in 1892, but the batch code starts with the letter E. That code was reserved for special commissions for the World's Fair in Chicago. 1893. The curator leaned in, his glasses sliding down his nose. "Are you certain?" "I am," I said. "And if you look at the canvas alignment on the back seam," I spun the heavy trunk around with surprising ease, "you will see the chevron pattern does not break. It is continuous. That technique was only used for the palace-grade trunks. This isn't just a steamer trunk. This is the personal transport chest of a diplomat, likely commissioned for the French delegation to the exposition." I stood up and peeled off the gloves. "It is not trash," I said, looking the Frenchman in the eye. "It is history. It just needs someone who knows how to listen to it." The room was silent. The skepticism was gone. In its place was a sudden, intense respect. "Remarkable," the Russian murmured. "She reads the object like a book." "Asher," the Frenchman said, nodding slowly. "You were right. She has the eye." Asher smiled. "She always does." I walked out of that room feeling 10 feet tall. Sienna could post 1,000 videos. She could cry until she was dehydrated. But in this room, where it mattered, her noise meant nothing. I had just proved that I was not a gold digger. I was the one holding the metal detector. 2 hours later, we were back in the suite when the concierge rang the bell. "A delivery for the gala committee," the concierge announced, wheeling in a trolley. "Mr. Kincaid requested that this item be held in the secure vault. But per your instructions, Mr. Vale, we brought it here for preliminary inspection first." On the trolley sat a box. It was wrapped in silver paper with a large, ostentatious bow. "This is Logan's donation," Asher said, cutting the ribbon with a letter opener. He registered it as a vintage Hermes Kelly, circa 1980, family heirloom. "Family heirloom?" I scoffed. "My mother has never owned a Kelly in her life. She thinks Michael Kors is high fashion." Asher opened the box. He lifted out the bag. It was black box leather with gold hardware. To the naked eye, it was stunning. The sheen of the leather was deep and glossy. The structure was rigid. It looked like a $20,000 bag. "Take a look," Asher said. I picked it up. The weight was right. The smell was right, that distinct mix of tanning agents and expensive animal hide. I ran my finger over the stitching. It was angled, the classic saddle stitch that Hermes was famous for. But then I pressed my thumb against the hardware on the front clasp. "It is warm," I whispered. "Explain," Asher said. "Gold plating on brass stays cold for a few seconds when you touch it," I said. "This warmed up instantly. It is an alloy, a very good one, but it is not gold-plated." I opened the bag. I checked the zipper pull. It dangled loosely. A real zipper pull has resistance. It stays parallel to the zipper teeth. I reached inside and found the blind stamp, the hidden code that tells you the year and the artisan who made it. Circle Z, 1996. "He claimed it was 1980, I said. "The stamp says 96. I pulled out my loupe, a small magnifying glass, and examined the stamp closely. The edges of the letters were too sharp, too perfect. A hand-stamped code has microscopic irregularities. This was laser-etched. "It is a fake," I declared. "It is a super fake. Probably from the Italian job batch that flooded the market 5 years ago. They are so good they fool 90% of resale sites. But they always laser the stamp because they can't replicate the force of the artisan's hammer. So Logan is donating a counterfeit bag to a charity auction," Asher summarized. "He is trying to get a tax write-off for the appraised value of a real bag, probably $25,000, while donating a piece of plastic that cost him $400. He is laundering his reputation," I said. "If this bag sells at a prestigious gala, it validates him. He can tell his investors, 'Look, I contribute to the arts. I have assets.'" "Do we pull it?" Asher asked. "I can call the committee right now. We can have it removed from the catalog. We can bar him from the event." I looked at the bag. I looked at the lie sitting in my lap. If we pulled it, Logan would spin another story. He would say the committee was biased. He would say it was a misunderstanding. He would slip away. "No," I said. Asher raised an eyebrow. "No. Let him walk it down the aisle," I said. "Let him sit in the front row. Let him watch the bidding start. I want him to feel safe. I want him to think he got away with it. And then I want the floor," I said. I stood up. "Asher, you are one of the biggest donors to this gala. You have leverage." "I own the building," Asher reminded me. "Good. Then make a call. I don't just want to be your guest tonight. I want a title." "What title?" "Chief Authenticator," I said. "I want the authority to pause the auction if a lot is disputed. I want it official. I want a badge. I want a microphone." Asher's lips curved into a smile. "You want to execute him on live television." "I want to do my job," I said. "My job is to identify fakes. Logan Kincaid is the biggest fake in the room." Asher pulled out his phone. "Consider it done." Just as he was dialing, his other phone, the encrypted one, rang. He frowned and answered it. Vale. He listened for a long minute. His expression shifted from focused to icy. He looked at me, his eyes dark. "Understood," he said into the phone. "Hold the warrant until my signal. Yes, tonight." He hung up. "That was the lawyer in New York," Asher said. "What did he find?" "We knew Logan was running a Ponzi scheme," Asher said. "We knew he was stealing from your mother, but we thought it was small scale. It turns out, Logan got ambitious." Asher walked over to the window, looking out at the skyline of Milan. "He opened a registered investment fund in Delaware 3 weeks ago," Asher said. "He called it Vale Kincaid Strategic Opportunities. He forged my signature on the incorporation papers. He used my social security number, which he likely bought on the dark web, to open the bank accounts." I gasped. "He stole your identity." "He tried to," Asher said, "but he didn't just break a few banking rules. By using the wires to solicit funds for a fraudulent entity using a stolen identity, he committed wire fraud, identity theft, and securities fraud. And because he did it across state lines, the FBI is involved." "The FBI?" I whispered. "They have been tracking the fund for a week," Asher said. "They were waiting for him to return to the U.S. to arrest him. But my lawyer just sent them the recording you made in the restaurant, the one where he admits to coercion and fraud. So they are coming here. They are coordinating with the Italian Carabinieri. Asher said, They are going to be at the Opera House tonight. They are going to wait until he attempts to complete a transaction, the sale of the donation, or the purchase of the necklace. Once money moves, the crime is international. I looked at the fake bag. I thought of my mother's house. I thought of the boarding pass on the floor. It wasn't just a family drama anymore. It wasn't just a breakup. He is going to prison, I said, for 10 to 15 years. Asher estimated. He walked back to me and placed his hands on my shoulders. Tonight is not a party, Chloe. It is a sting operation, and you are the wire. I took a deep breath. I felt a strange calm settle over me. The fear was gone. The hurt was gone. All that was left was the cold precision of a craftsman who knew exactly where to strike the chisel to split the stone. I don't need to fight him, I said, looking at the black bag. I just need to turn on the lights. Exactly, Asher said. Go get dressed. The curtain rises in 3 hours. I walked toward the bedroom. I didn't look back at the phone with Sienna's crying face. I didn't look back at the fake bag. I was going to wear red, the color of warning, the color of the stamp that says rejected. And when I was done, there would be no doubt left in anyone's mind about who was the treasure and who was the trash. The Aurelia Opera House did not look like a building. It looked like a jewelry box that had been exploded from the inside out. Gold leaf dripped from the ceiling. Red velvet smothered every surface, and the chandelier in the center of the dome was the size of a small house. It was a place designed to make you feel small, to remind you that the history of money in Milan was older than your country. I stood on the mezzanine balcony, looking down at the sea of tuxedos and couture gowns. I was not wearing the blue dress anymore. That was the dress of a fiancé. Tonight, I was wearing red. It was a deep, violent crimson, the color of a wax seal used to close a classified file. It was long-sleeved, high-necked, and backless. Trailing behind me like a warning, pinned to my chest was a badge. It was heavy, made of brushed steel, with the word Authenticator etched in black enamel. In my ear, a small transparent coil connected me to the entire security grid of the event. Station 1, check. The head of security's voice crackled in my ear. Station 1 is clear, I replied, touching the earpiece. I have visual on the main floor. Copy that. Ms. Green, we have a situation at the North Gate. 3 individuals claiming to be VIPs. Their names are not on the list. They are causing a scene. I smiled. It was a cold, tight smile that didn't reach my eyes. I see them on the monitor, I said. Let them in. Copy. Under whose authority? Mine, I said. Register them as guests of the staff. I walked down the marble staircase. The heels of my shoes rang out like gunshots on the stone. I moved through the crowd, parting the sea of socialites and billionaires. I wasn't just walking. I was patrolling. I reached the grand foyer just as the heavy oak doors swung open. My family fell into the room. They looked frantic. Logan was sweating, his tuxedo jacket buttoned wrong. My mother was clutching her clutch so hard her knuckles were white. Sienna was already holding her phone up, trying to film her entrance to prove she hadn't been rejected. It is about time, Logan snapped at the doorman, straightening his tie. Do you know who I am? I am a donor. Sir, please keep your voice down, the doorman said. Looking past him to me, Logan turned and saw me. He froze. My mother froze. Sienna lowered her phone. They stared at the red dress. They stared at the badge. They stared at the way I stood, not shrinking, not apologizing, but waiting. Chloe, my mother breathed. You got us in. We were out there for 20 minutes. They said our tickets were invalid. They were, I said calmly. The tickets Logan bought were from a third-party broker who doesn't exist. You bought photocopies. Logan turned purple. That is a lie. My assistant handled it. It does not matter. I cut him off. I vouched for you. You are in. but you are on my manifest now." "Well, thank God someone has some sense," Logan huffed. Trying to regain his composure, he looked around the glittering foyer. "Where is our table? We need to be near the front. I have to be visible for the auction." "Follow me," I said. I turned and walked into the main hall. I didn't look back to see if they were following. I knew they were. They were desperate to be seen. I led them past the first ring of tables. These were the platinum tables, covered in white orchids, occupied by people whose last names were on the sides of hospitals. I saw the envy on my mother's face as we walked past. She slowed down. Hoping I would stop, I kept walking. We passed the gold circle, the silver circle. We walked past the orchestra pit. We walked past the sound booth. "Chloe, where are we going?" Sienna whispered, jogging to keep up in her heels. "The stage is back there." "Keep moving," I said. I led them to the very edge of the room, past a heavy velvet curtain, into a small, awkward alcove next to the service entrance. Table 99. It was a small, wobbly round table squeezed between a fire extinguisher and the swinging double doors of the catering kitchen. Every time the door opened, a blast of steam and the smell of roasted fish and dish soap hit the table. Directly above the table, glowing in neon green, was a sign, "Toilette." An arrow pointed down, right at Logan's chair. "Here we are," I said, gesturing to the seats. "You are joking," Sienna said, looking at the tablecloth, which had a small burn mark on the edge. "We can't sit here. The kitchen is right there. It smells like garlic." "It was the only space available for late additions," I lied. "Take it or leave it. The exit is that way." Logan looked at the room. He looked at the distance to the stage. It was miles away, but he was inside. He needed to be inside to sell his fake watch and to see his fake donation be auctioned. "It is fine," Logan snapped, sitting down. "We are here for business, not the view. Sit down. Sienna." Sienna slumped into her chair. She pulled out her phone to take a selfie. Adjusting her angle, she tilted her head left. The toilet sign was in the frame. She tilted right. The fire extinguisher was in the frame. She tried a high angle. The kitchen doors swung open, and a waiter carrying a stack of dirty plates walked through the background. "I can't post this," she hissed, slamming her phone onto the table. "I look like I'm eating in a cafeteria." "Then put the phone away and enjoy the moment," I said. My mother looked up at me. She looked at the badge on my chest. "Authenticator," she read. "Is that why you are dressed like that? You are working like hired help." She said it with relief. If I was working, then I wasn't above her. I was just a servant in a nice dress. "Someone has to make sure the things in this room are real." "Mother," I said, "there are a lot of fakes in circulation." I let my eyes drift to Logan. He stood up and pulled me aside, near the fire extinguisher. He leaned in, his voice low and greasy. "Good job getting us in," he said, patting my shoulder. I flinched, but he didn't notice. "I knew you would come through. Look, about last night I was stressed. I didn't mean to scare you about the house." "Didn't you?" I asked. "Business is war. Chloe, you understand?" he said, winking. "But hey, tonight is the big night. I have the donation bag in the vault that is going to bring in a nice tax break, and," he patted his tuxedo pocket, "I have the watch for Asher. I assume he is ready to receive it." "He is waiting for the transaction," I said. "He has the funds allocated." "Perfect," Logan said. "I am going to hand it to him after the auction. Cash on delivery. Once I get that check, I will give you a little something, maybe $500. You can buy yourself a new toolkit or whatever you people use." He looked so proud of himself. He was offering me $500 from the $40,000 he was planning to steal from my fiancé, to save the house he was planning to foreclose on anyway. "500, I repeated. "That is generous. Logan, I take care of family," he said. "And the watch?" I asked, looking at his pocket. "It is safe. Right here," he said. "In the box." He didn't know. He didn't know that 3 hours ago, while he was arguing with the hotel concierge about a room charge, A member of Asher's security team had slipped into his suite. He didn't know that the box in his pocket had been swapped. It looked identical. The watch inside looked identical. It was the same fake watch, but the lining of the box had been modified. Inside the velvet cushion was a high-frequency GPS tracker and a pinhole camera that was currently broadcasting a live feed to the van parked outside. "Good," I said. "I hope you get everything you deserve tonight. Logan." "I always do," he grinned. "And you?" "Mom," I said. Looking at her, she was trying to flag down a waiter who was ignoring her. "I hope you enjoy the show. Just get us some champagne, Chloe," my mother said without looking at me, "and tell them to turn down the air conditioning. It is freezing back here by the door." "I will see what I can do," I said. I turned and walked away. "Good luck," Logan called after me. "Good luck," I whispered to myself. I walked back through the hall. The air changed as I moved away from them. The smell of dish soap faded, replaced by the scent of expensive perfume and anticipation. I walked toward the stage, but I didn't go to the seats. I walked up the side stairs to the authentication station. It was a raised platform to the left of the auctioneer's podium, illuminated by a single clinical white spotlight. It looked like a laboratory bench in the middle of a palace. There were microscopes, UV lamps, and a laptop connected to the international database of stolen art. Asher was standing at the foot of the stage, talking to the chief of police of Milan, who was dressed in a tuxedo so sharp it looked like a weapon. Asher looked up and saw me. He nodded. I stepped onto the platform. I put on my headset. "Sound check," I said into the microphone. "Loud and clear. Ms. Green," the audio engineer replied. I looked out at the crowd. From up here, I could see everything. I saw the diamonds glittering on the necks of duchesses. I saw the nervous tapping of fingers on paddles. And way back in the dark, near the kitchen doors, I saw 3 tiny figures arguing over a breadbasket. They thought I was the opening act. They thought I was just the girl who checked the merchandise before the real show started. They didn't realize that tonight, I was the judge, the jury, and the executioner. The lights in the house dimmed. The heavy velvet curtain rose. A hush fell over the room. The auctioneer, a British man with a voice like gravel and honey, stepped up to the podium. "Ladies and gentlemen," he boomed, "welcome to the Aurelia Charity Gala. Tonight, we celebrate beauty, we celebrate history, and above all, we celebrate truth." I picked up my gavel. It was small, heavy, and made of brass. I looked at Logan one last time. He was taking a swig of champagne, leaning back in his chair, smiling at the ceiling. "Enjoy it. Logan," I thought, "that is the last taste of champagne you are going to have for a very long time." I adjusted my microphone. "Let the bidding begin," I whispered. The first item came up on the screen. It was a painting. The bidding was fast, aggressive. Numbers flew through the air. 2 million, 3 million, sold. I sat still. I was waiting. Item number 5 was the necklace Asher wanted. The Eye of Medici. Item number 6 was Logan's donation. The night was moving fast. The trap was set. The players were in position. I rested my hand on the table. My fingers were steady. "Trust me." The billionaire had said. I looked down at him in the front row. He raised his glass to me slightly. Trust had nothing to do with it anymore. This was about competence. And I was very, very good at my job. The auctioneer cleared his throat. The sound amplified across the cavernous, velvet-draped hall of the Aurelia Opera House. The bidding for the Medici necklace had been suspended temporarily, a strategic pause to build anticipation. Now, it was time for the charity filler the items donated to make the wealthy feel benevolent before they spent millions on themselves. "And now," the auctioneer announced, his voice booming with practiced gravitas, "we present Lot 6, a generous donation from the Kincaid Family Trust, a vintage Hermes Kelly, circa 1980, in black box leather with gold hardware, a true piece of fashion history." The spotlight swung away from the podium and cut through the darkness, landing on the side of the stage. Sienna stepped out. She had clearly been waiting for this moment her entire life. She walked toward the center of the stage. clutching the black bag against her hip as if it were a newborn baby. She was smiling so wide it looked painful. She paused at the microphone stand, bathed in the white light, while the massive screen behind her projected a 10-foot-tall image of her face. "Thank you," Sienna said, her voice trembling with a rehearsed emotion. "My family believes that true luxury is about legacy. This bag has been with us through so many memories. It is hard to part with it, honestly. But knowing the proceeds go to art preservation makes it worth it. We just hope the new owner loves it as much as we did." It was a masterclass in deception. She sounded sweet. She sounded noble. She sounded like the heiress she desperately pretended to be. From my perch on the authentication platform, I looked down at the back of the room. Logan was standing up at table 99, near the kitchen doors. He was beaming. He raised a glass of champagne to the people at the neighboring table, silently mouthing, "That is my wife. That is my donation. My mother." Darlene was clapping so hard her bracelets jangled. She looked around the room, desperate to see if anyone was looking back at her. In her mind, she had arrived. She was the matriarch of a philanthropic dynasty. She was seeing salvation. The tax write-off from this sale, combined with the money she thought Logan was getting from Asher, meant the house was safe. She thought she was in heaven. "Shall we start the bidding?" the auctioneer asked. "Do I hear $5,000? 5,000? A paddle went up in the third row. "Thank you, madam. Do I hear 7? 7,000? A man near the orchestra pit called out. 10,000? A voice from the balcony shouted. The price was climbing. 12,000. 15,000. The crowd was engaged. They bought the story. They saw a beautiful girl in a shiny dress holding a shiny bag, and they opened their checkbooks. Logan was vibrating with excitement. I could see him checking his phone, likely calculating the tax deduction he would claim on his fraudulent returns. He looked at Asher, who was sitting in the front row, stone-faced. Logan gave him a thumbs up. Asher did not return the gesture. He looked up at me. The bidding hit $20,000. 20,000 going once, the auctioneer chanted. 20,000 going twice. I reached out and flipped the switch on my console. A red light pulsed on the auctioneer's podium. His rhythm faltered. He looked up at my station, confused. I leaned into my microphone. My voice did not tremble. It was cool, metallic, and amplified to fill every corner of the opera house. "Stop the sale," I said. The silence that followed was absolute. It was the kind of silence that happens after a car crash, before the screaming starts. Sienna froze on stage. She looked up at me, squinting into the spotlight. Her smile wavered, then dropped. "Excuse me," the auctioneer sputtered, clutching his gavel. "We have a bid of 20,000. I am exercising my authority as chief authenticator for this event," I said, my words echoing off the gold-leafed ceiling. "I am placing an immediate hold on Lot 6 due to a discrepancy in provenance and material integrity." A murmur rippled through the crowd. People turned in their seats, whispering, "Who is she? What does that mean?" I stood up from my station. I walked down the stairs from the platform to the main stage. My red dress trailed behind me like a pool of blood. I did not hurry. I moved with the terrifying slowness of inevitability. "Chloe," Sienna hissed as I approached her. She forgot her microphone was live. Her voice boomed over the speakers, shrill and panicked. "What are you doing? Get out of here. You are ruining the moment." "Give me the bag, Sienna," I said calmly. "No." She clutched it tighter to her chest. "It is ours. Logan donated it. You are just jealous." From the back of the room, a scream tore through the air. "Chloe." It was my mother. She had stood up. Knocking her chair over, she was pointing a shaking finger at me. "Get off that stage. How dare you? You are trying to destroy this family. You are jealous because we are VIPs and you are nothing." The crowd turned to look at the crazy woman screaming by the kitchen doors. Security started to move toward her, but I held up a hand. "Let her speak," I said into my headset. "Let everyone see who they are." I turned back to Sienna. I stepped into her personal space. The giant screen behind us now showed both of us, the sister in the cheap sequins clutching a lie, and the sister in the red couture holding a scalpel. "I am not doing this to hurt you, Sienna," I said, though I knew that was a lie. "I am doing this because I swore an oath to protect the integrity of this auction. Now, hand me the item, or I will have security remove you for trafficking counterfeit goods." Sienna's eyes went wide. "Counterfeit?" She looked at the crowd. She looked at Logan. Logan was no longer smiling. He was pale, frantically making a cut-it motion with his hand across his throat. Sienna let go of the bag. I took it. I walked to the center of the stage, placing the bag on a small display table under the high-definition document camera. The image of the bag appeared on the IMAX-sized screen behind me, magnified 50 times. Every grain of leather was the size of a dinner plate. "Ladies and gentlemen," I addressed the audience, "you were told this is a 1980 Hermes Kelly in box leather, a stunning example of craftsmanship." I put on my white gloves. "However," I continued, "luxury has a language, and this bag is speaking the wrong dialect." I ran my gloved finger along the stitching. On the screen, the thread looked like a thick rope. "Hermes uses a saddle stitch," I explained, my voice clinical. "It is done by hand, with 2 needles passing through the same hole. It creates a slight angle, a beautiful imperfection. Look at the screen. These stitches are perfectly straight. They are uniform. This was done by a machine, a sewing machine that stamps 1,000 bags an hour." The crowd gasped softly. "Next," I said, "the sensory profile." I bent down and sniffed the leather. "A bag of this vintage should smell of tannin, beeswax, and age," I said. "This bag smells of industrial adhesive and plastisol. It smells like a factory floor in a province that does not exist on a French map." "She is lying," Logan shouted from the back. He had climbed onto his chair. "She is crazy. That is a family heirloom. My grandmother gave it to us." I ignored him. I picked up the bag and turned it over to show the hardware. "And finally," I said, "the date stamp. The donor claims 1980. That would correspond to a Circle J stamp." I opened the strap and positioned the blind stamp under the camera. The giant screen showed the letter Z inside a circle. "This stamp indicates 1996, I said. "But look at the depth. It is laser-etched. In 1996, Hermes artisans used a hammer and a steel die. The impression should be deep, uneven, human. This is shallow. It is a computer-generated image of a stamp." "It is a lie," Darlene shrieked. She was crying now, mascara running down her face. "Chloe, stop it. You are embarrassing us. Think of the house. Think of the money." "I am thinking of the value," I said cold-bloodedly. I reached into the pocket of my dress. I pulled out a small, surgical-grade scalpel. The metal glinted in the spotlight. The room went dead silent. Even my mother stopped screaming. "There is only one way to be 100% certain," I said. "True luxury is beautiful from the inside out. A real Kelly is lined with chèvre goat skin. It is bonded to the outer leather with natural latex." I held the bag down with one hand. I raised the scalpel. "No," Sienna screamed, lunging forward. "Don't cut it." I didn't hesitate. I drove the blade into the side of the bag. The sound of the leather ripping was amplified by the microphone, a harsh tearing noise that made people wince. I sliced a clean 6-inch line through the side panel. I put down the scalpel. I dug my fingers into the wound I had created and peeled the layers apart. I turned the exposed interior toward the camera. On the giant screen, the truth was undeniable. Underneath the thin layer of black leather, there was no goat skin, there was no natural latex, there was a layer of gray, compressed cardboard, and printed on the cardboard, visible to everyone in the room, was a partial logo from a Chinese shipping crate. The audience erupted. It wasn't polite applause. It was the angry murmuring roar of rich people who realized they had almost been swindled. "Cardboard," I said, my voice cutting through the noise. "This is a super fake. Wholesale cost approximately $400. Attempted sale price $20,000. I looked directly at the camera, knowing my face was 50 feet tall behind me. "This is not a donation," I said. "This is fraud." Sienna burst into tears, covering her face with her hands, and ran off the stage. She didn't run to her family. She ran to the exit. She knew the social currency of the Cole family had just crashed to zero. At table 99, Logan Kincaid realized the game was up. The arrogance drained out of him, replaced by the primal urge to flee. He jumped down from his chair and shoved my mother aside. "Move!" he shouted at her. He bolted for the kitchen doors. "Security!" I commanded into my mic. 2 massive guards stepped out from the kitchen, blocking the exit. Logan skidded to a halt. Turning around, he looked for another way out. He saw the main doors blocked. He was trapped. The spotlight that had been on me swung around. It swept across the room and pinned Logan against the wall. He threw his hands up to shield his eyes, looking like a rat caught in a headlight. "I didn't know," Logan screamed, pointing at me. "She switched it?" Chloe switched the bag. "It was real when I gave it to the committee." "She is framing me." "Framing you?" I asked. I signaled the audio engineer. "Let us hear what you had to say about framing." "Logan." I pressed the button on my console. The audio recording from the restaurant played over the Opera House speakers. It was crystal clear. "It is a fake," my voice on the recording said. "It is a super clone, probably from a factory in Guangzhou." Then Logan's voice, unmistakable and sneering, "Shut up. It is real if an expert says it is real. And you are the expert. I control the house. Chloe, I control your mother's accounts. I can sign a quitclaim deed to one of my partners in Nevada right now, and the house is gone forever." The crowd gasped. The shock was palpable. This wasn't just about a bag anymore. They were listening to extortion. They were listening to a man threaten to make his own mother-in-law homeless. My mother, standing next to Logan in the spotlight, went rigid. She stopped crying. She stared at Logan as if he were a stranger. "You," she whispered. Her voice picked up by the nearby ambient mic. "You said the house was safe. You said you were investing for me." "It is fake," Logan screamed, his eyes wild. "That audio is fake. It is AI. It is a deep fake. She used a computer to make my voice." "I never said that." He looked around the room, desperate for an ally. "You all know about AI," he yelled at the crowd. "You can make anyone say anything. I am a businessman. I am a victim of technology." He was almost convincing. For a second, I saw hesitation in some faces. Deepfakes were real. Maybe he was being framed. Then, a man stood up in the front row. It wasn't Asher. It was a man in a gray suit, carrying a briefcase. He walked onto the stage and stood next to me. He adjusted his glasses and took the microphone I offered him. "My name is Arthur Penhaligon," he said. "I am the lead counsel for Mr. Asher Vale." He opened his briefcase and pulled out a stack of documents. "We anticipated the deepfake defense," the lawyer said dryly, "which is why we have correlated the audio timestamp with the metadata from Mr. Kincaid's own phone, which he foolishly connected to the restaurant's Wi-Fi." He held up a paper. "But more importantly," the lawyer continued, "we have the bank records. Mr. Kincaid, you claimed the proceeds from this donation were for charity, yet we have a wire instruction authorization signed by you, directing the auction house to send the funds not to the charity, but to a shell company in the Cayman Islands, a company that was flagged by the SEC 3 days ago for money laundering." He dropped the paper on the table. It landed with a heavy thud. "And regarding the house," the lawyer said, looking at my mother, "we have the loan documents from the hard money lender. Mr. Kincaid did not invest your equity. Mrs. Cole, he spent it. He spent $40,000 on private jet charters. He spent $12,000 on the suite at the hotel, and he spent the rest covering the interest payments on his previous victims." My mother collapsed. She didn't faint gracefully. She just crumpled into a heap on the dirty carpet near the kitchen, sobbing into her hands. The realization broke her. Her golden boy was a thief. Her financial savior was her executioner. Logan looked at the lawyer. He looked at me. "This is a civil matter," Logan shouted, trying to sound authoritative but failing. "You can sue me. Fine. I will see you in court. But you can't keep me here. I am an American citizen. Actually, a new voice spoke up. From the shadows of the wings, 3 men stepped out. They were wearing the distinctive uniforms of the Carabinieri, the Italian military police. And behind them were 2 men in suits with FBI badges hanging from their pockets. It ceased to be a civil matter when you attempted to defraud an international auction house, the FBI agent said, his voice projecting without a microphone. And when you crossed international borders to conduct wire fraud, Logan's knees gave out. He grabbed the back of a chair to stay upright. No, he whispered. No, no, no. I have money. I have a check. Asher wrote me a check. He fumbled in his pocket and pulled out the check Asher had given him at the restaurant. He waved it at the police like a shield. I have $40,000 right here I can pay bail. Asher stood up from his seat in the front row. He turned to face Logan. He didn't smile. He just looked at him with a profound, terrifying boredom. That check is dated for tomorrow. Logan? Asher called out. And as of 5 minutes ago, the account it draws from has been frozen by the Department of Justice as part of the investigation into your Ponzi scheme. Logan looked at the paper in his hand. It was worthless. Just like the bag. Just like his promises. The Carabinieri moved in. They didn't run. They walked with the confidence of men who knew the rat had nowhere to go. They grabbed Logan by the arms. "Get off me!" Logan screamed as they cuffed him. The sound of the handcuffs ratcheting shut echoed through the silent opera house. "Darlene, tell them I was helping you." My mother didn't look up. She was rocking back and forth on the floor, mourning the death of her fantasy. I stood on the stage, the scalpel still in my hand, the ruined bag in front of me. I looked at Logan being dragged toward the exit, his tuxedo bunched up, his dignity gone. He looked at me one last time. His eyes were filled with hate, but mostly with confusion. He still couldn't understand how the girl he had left at the airport had become the judge who sentenced him. I leaned into the microphone one last time. "Lot 6 has been withdrawn," I said. "We apologize for the inconvenience. Please, enjoy the rest of the evening." I turned off the mic. I took off the headset. I looked at Asher. He nodded. The show was over. The surgery was a success. The cancer had been cut out. Now, all that was left was to clean up the blood. The silence that followed the snap of the handcuffs was heavy, vibrating with the collective shock of 500 of the wealthiest people in Europe. Logan Kincaid, the man who had torn my boarding pass with such arrogant precision just hours ago, was now being dragged backward by 2 Carabinieri officers. His tuxedo jacket was bunched up around his shoulders, exposing his sweat-stained shirt. He wasn't fighting anymore. The alpha male facade had dissolved, leaving behind a terrified man who realized he had gambled his life on a bluff and lost. "Darlene!" Logan shrieked, his voice cracking. "Call the embassy. Tell them who I am." But Darlene Cole could not call anyone. My mother was slumped on a velvet chair near the kitchen doors, staring blankly at the space where her son-in-law had been, the fantasy world she had built. The world where she was the matriarch of a high-finance dynasty had shattered into a million pieces. I walked down the steps from the stage. The red dress flowed around me, but I didn't feel like a princess. I felt like a surgeon walking out of the operating room after a difficult amputation, exhausted, bloody, but necessary. Sienna was huddled against the wall, her phone clutched in her hand. She wasn't filming anymore. She was frantically tapping the screen. "I have to delete them," she was muttering to herself, her fingers flying. "I have to delete the unboxing videos. I have to delete the investment tips. Oh my God, if they think I was a partner." She looked up and saw me standing there. The fear in her eyes was primal. She realized that every post she had ever made tagging Logan's fraudulent fund was now evidence. "Chloe," Sienna gasped, reaching out to grab my arm. "You have to tell them I didn't know. I was just the face, right? I didn't sign anything. You are my sister. You can't let them arrest me." I stepped back, out of her reach. "I cannot help you. Sienna, the FBI has mirrored Logan's cloud accounts. Deleting your posts now is just destruction of evidence. I would suggest you stop typing and start looking for a public defender. Sienna recoiled as if I had slapped her. She slumped against the wall, sliding down until she was sitting on the floor, weeping into her cheap sequined dress. I turned to my mother. She looked up at me. Her eyes were red, her mascara running in dark streaks down her cheeks. She looked old. For the first time in my life, I saw her not as the terrifying force who controlled my self-esteem, but as a foolish, aging woman who had sold her soul for a fake purse. "He said he paid off the house," she whispered. "Chloe, he said the house was safe." "He lied." "Mother," I said. My voice was calm. It wasn't the voice of the daughter who used to beg for approval. "He spent the money. The foreclosure notice was going to be posted on your door tomorrow morning." "What am I going to do?" she wailed, clutching her chest. "I am homeless. I am 60 years old and I am homeless in a foreign country. How could you let this happen? You knew you stood up there and humiliated him instead of coming to me quietly." The accusation hit me, but it didn't hurt. It just confirmed everything I needed to know. Even in the wreckage, she was blaming me. "I tried to come to you quietly," I said. "I tried to tell you at the airport that he was stealing from me. You told me I was jealous. You told me to go home. I didn't know." "You didn't want to know," I corrected her. "You liked the lie better than you liked your daughter." I crouched down so I was eye level with her. "You abandoned me at gate D12 with no money and no passport," I said softly. "You watched him tear up my ticket. You didn't look back. So tell me, Mother, exactly how did you think I was going to save you?" She opened her mouth, but no words came out. She closed it again. The shame finally hit her. She looked away. Asher stepped up beside me. He didn't say a word. He just handed me a thick, blue legal folder. I took it. I felt the weight of the paper. It was heavier than the fake bag. "Here," I said, dropping the folder into my mother's lap. "What is this?" She sniffled, opening it. "That," I said, "is the deed to the house in Tampa." Her head snapped up. Hope, bright and desperate, flooded her face. "You saved it." "Oh, Chloe, thank God I knew you had money. I knew that man would—" "Stop," I cut her off. "The house is not yours," I said. "Asher's holding company bought the debt this morning, and 10 minutes ago, they transferred the title into a blind trust." "A trust?" she asked, confused. "The Chloe Green Revocable Trust," I said. "I am the sole trustee. I own the house. Mother, you are a guest." I pointed to the document. "You can live there," I said. "I will not put you on the street, but there are conditions. You will sign a document revoking all power of attorney you ever gave to Logan. You will attend financial counseling once a week, and you will never, ever try to leverage that property for credit again. If you miss one counseling session, if you try to borrow $1 against the equity, the eviction notice is automatic." She stared at me. "You are treating me like a child." "I am treating you like a liability," I said, "because that is what you have been." "And me?" Sienna asked from the floor, wiping her nose. "I can stay too, right until I get back on my feet." I looked at my sister, the girl who had poured wine on my dress, the girl who had built a career on making me feel small. "No," I said. Sienna gasped. "What?" "The house is for Mom," I said. "You are 30 years old. Sienna, you have a degree you never use. You have 2 hands. You are not allowed to live in that house. You are not allowed to touch the assets." "But I have nowhere to go," Sienna screamed. "Logan's accounts are frozen. I have nothing." "Then you have exactly what I had at the airport," I said. "Figure it out. Get a job. Sell your clothes. Learn to restore things instead of destroying them." "You are a bitch," Sienna spat. "I am the landlord," I said. "And the lease just denied your application." I stood up. I looked at my mother one last time. "There is one more price," I said. "For the house?" "Anything," my mother sobbed, clutching the folder. "An apology," I said. "Not here, not in private. You humiliated me in public. You let Sienna post videos calling me a failure. I want a public retraction. I want you to post a video admitting that you left me, that Logan stole from me, and that I saved you. If you don't do it by tomorrow noon, I sell the house." "Okay," she whispered, defeat total in her eyes. "Okay, I will do it." "Good." I reached into my small clutch. I pulled out a wad of cash euros I had withdrawn earlier. It was about 200 euros, enough for a taxi to their cheap hotel and maybe a meal at McDonald's. I tossed the bills into her lap. They fluttered down onto the legal folder. "For the cab," I said. "Since you don't have a ride." "Chloe," she started, reaching out a hand. "Don't," I said. "I am not your safety net anymore. Mom, I am just the woman who fixed your mess. Tidy up the rest yourself." I turned my back on them. I walked away. I walked past the staring crowd, past the whispering billionaires, toward the grand exit doors. Asher was waiting for me in the foyer. The night air rushed in as the doorman held the doors open. It smelled of rain and exhaust, but to me, it smelled like freedom. "That was brutal," Asher said. He didn't say it with judgment. He said it with awe. "It was necessary," I replied. "Restoration requires stripping away the rot. If you leave it, it just spreads." We walked out onto the steps of the Opera House. The flashing lights of the police cars were fading into the distance as they took Logan away. "You know," Asher said, putting his hands in his pockets, "I lied to you too." I stopped and looked at him. "About what?" "At the airport," he said. "When I told you to smile and pretend to be my fiancé, I didn't just do it to save face for you." "Why did you do it?" "Because under Italian law and the strict rules of this auction house, a guest cannot stop a proceeding," Asher explained. "Only a registered bidder or their legally declared partner has the standing to challenge a lot. If you were just my employee, they would have thrown you off the stage before you opened your mouth. I had to give you my status so you could use your voice." I looked at him. He had given me his power so I could reclaim my own. "So," I said, looking at the ring finger where a diamond should be, "the engagement is off." "The engagement was a strategy," Asher said. He turned to face me fully. "But the partnership that I would like to keep, I am not going to be your kept woman, Asher," I said. "I am going back to Miami. I have a studio to run." "I don't want a kept woman," Asher said. "I want a partner. I am launching a new division. Veil Authentication, a global firm dedicated to verifying assets for high net worth portfolios. We catch the fakes before they buy them. I have the capital. You have the eye." "And the terms?" I asked. 50-50 equity," Asher said. "You run the operations. I handle the clients. You are not an employee. You are the boss." I looked at the streetlights reflecting in his gray eyes. For the first time, I didn't see a savior. I didn't see a transaction. I saw an equal. "I will need a new contract," I said, a small smile touching my lips. "And a bigger scalpel." "Done," Asher said. He offered me his arm, not to hold me up, but to walk with me. I looked back at the Opera House one last time. My family was in there, picking up the pieces of the reality I had forced them to see. They would survive, or they wouldn't. It wasn't my job to fix them anymore. I had fixed the only thing that mattered, my own life. I stepped out into the Milanese night. I didn't need a ride. I didn't need a ticket. I knew exactly where I was going. "Trust me," the billionaire had whispered in my ear. I took a deep breath. "No," I whispered to the empty street. "Trust me." And for the first time in 33 years, I did. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I am curious to know where you are tuning in from right now. Are you listening on your way to work, at the gym, or maybe relaxing at home? Please comment down below with your location, and let's see how far Chloe's story has traveled. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel Maya Revenge Stories, hit that like button, and smash the hype button to help this story reach even more people who need a little reminder to trust their own strength. See you in the next drama.